Chapter 14-15. We're back. We're finally back. On the Supreme Island, the Million family soldiers and the 10 pinnacle experts grinned as they looked at the Star Ocean and the familiar Supreme Island. Many people were confused as to why Zhu Yi didn't choose to attack the other planes so that the glory of the realm of divinity could continue to radiate to countless planes and shock the entire realm of divinity. However, they all chose to respect Zhu Yi's decision because they knew that Zhu Yi represented the will of the Great Arch. All the experts of the realm of divinity gathered on the Supreme Island to welcome the soldiers who fought for the realm of divinity. Countless banquets were set up on the Supreme Island's plaza. The entire island was filled with joy. The Great Arch is in the reincarnation plane? I want to see the Great Arch. The experts of the realm of divinity and Yi Qinghan's women were all in Zhu Yi's residence. Before anyone could speak, Zhu Yi asked the Yao Ji with a dark expression. As soon as Zhu Yi finished speaking, everyone looked at the Yao Ji with heated gazes. They clearly wanted to see Yi Qinghan. The Yao Ji's eyes flickered. She immediately smiled and said, "Hee, the Great Arch said that he would come back after coming out of seclusion. He's in seclusion. Is there anything important that you want to see him for?" Zhu Yi was very observant and easily noticed the Yao Ji's strange expression. She asked hurriedly, "The Great Arch isn't in the reincarnation plane? Where is he?" Everyone was shocked and stared at the Yao Ji. The Yao Ji could only smile bitterly and say, "Actually, I can't find the Great Arch either." "What?" Everyone's expression changed and countless people exclaimed. Yi Qinghan was the pillar of the realm of divinity. If something happened to Yi Qinghan, no one dared to imagine what would happen. "Aya, don't panic. Let me finish first." The Yao Ji smiled bitterly. These people were the overlords of the realm of divinity. Why were they so impatient? Yao Ji looked at Xiao He, who was shouting the loudest, and said, "Great Emperor Xiao He, do you still remember when you and the Great Emperor were sucked into the gray space outside the reincarnation plane by the space whirlpool?" "Of course I remember. Boss and I have been in there for thousands of years." Xiao He nodded. Then, his eyes lit up as he asked, "Boss, in there?" When Yao Ji nodded, Xiao He rubbed his nose. He glanced at everyone and said embarrassedly, "In that case, we really can't find Boss. That godforsaken place only has a range of 10,000 meters. Furthermore, it's vast and boundless. Boss and I have been there for thousands of years, but we still haven't found the end. It's almost impossible to find him unless your luck is heaven-defying." This, everyone frowned. It seemed that it was almost impossible to find Yi Qinghan. However, everyone was relieved. Since Yi Qinghan could come out last time, once he passed the bottleneck, he would be able to come out immediately. Although Zhu Yi had countless questions and countless things she wanted to say to Yi Qinghan, she could only let it go. If Xiao He couldn't find Yi Qinghan with his powerful strength, she definitely wouldn't be able to find him if she went to look for him. The planar war ended. The realm of divinity regained its peace. Although Yi Qinghan wasn't there, with Zhu Yi and Lei Zhen, everything was in order. The cultivators continued to cultivate, the immigrants continued to migrate. Wind Moon Monarch brought a group of array masters to the Devil Plane to perfect the material plane's teleportation array, turning the demonic plane into another realm of divinity. The lower rank, 9 cultivators of the realm of divinity were all in seclusion, hoping to break through to upper rank 9. They were waiting for Yi Qinghan to come back and bestow them primal chaos divine crystals. Generation after generation of geniuses entered the Flame Dragon sacred city. One by one, experts were born. The overall strength of the realm of divinity grew with the passage of time. I've broken through again. Emperor of the realm of divinity, I challenge you to a duel." In the dusky space, Yi Qinghan was still sitting cross-legged. However, he was awakened by a murderous voice. Yi Qinghan looked into the distance and saw Yao Fei's face full of excitement. Her body turned into a streak of light as she flew toward him. A look of shock appeared on his somewhat numb face. How many years had it been? Yao Fei had broken through again? Although Yi Qinghan himself was a monster, and so was Xiao He, he was still shocked by the strange things that had happened to Yao Fei. Swoosh! A crescent-shaped wind blade tens of thousands of meters long tore through the air. It carried with it a domineering and destructive power as it slashed toward Yi Qinghan's head. "You've improved a little." Yi Qinghan nodded to himself as he watched. His body did not move. Instead, he channeled the power of frost and condensed a large palm to meet the wind blade head-on. The large palm suddenly appeared out of thin air. It was several times faster than the wind blade and instantly collided with the wind blade. A blinding light flashed. Following that, a terrifying aura was emitted from the center of the light. The wind blade and the large palm collided, resulting in a violent explosion. Boom! Space distorted, and cracks spread out in all directions like broken ice cubes. Dust flew everywhere, and a huge mushroom cloud soared into the sky. The terrifying aura caused even the wind in the surrounding space to stop blowing. Ugh! What shocked Yao Fei the most was that after the explosion, a huge palm flew out from the blinding light. In the blink of an eye, it was right in front of her face. That suffocating and terrifying aura surged towards her. Yao Fei did not doubt that even if she did not die from this palm strike, her body would be turned into a pile of mush. The large palm stopped 1,000 meters in front of Yao Fei. A strong gust of wind caused Yao Fei's robes and green hair to flutter violently. Following that, the large palm suddenly shattered, and the dust in the air also fell silently. A green figure slowly walked out from the dust. His face was filled with a warm smile as he looked at Yao Fei and said, "I've said it before. You will never be a match for me. Wait for me to continue cultivating for hundreds of thousands of years. One day, I will kill you." Yao Fei glared at Yi Qinghan with that bone-deep hatred in her eyes. Then, she ignored everything else and sat down cross-legged to cultivate. Yi Qinghan stared at Yao Fei with great interest. His eyes swiveled several times as he jokingly said, "Those little tricks you practice can only barely increase your strength a little. It's useless. You will never reach my heights in your entire life." Yao Fei glared at Yi Qinghan and angrily said, "Nonsense. This king has the heavenly spiritual body that hasn't appeared in the last million years of the Fei race. What I cultivate is the supreme heavenly Tao. The family monarch said that as long as this king diligently cultivates, this king's strength will be able to look down upon all of Pangaea in the future. Heavenly spiritual body? Heavenly Tao?" A sharp light flashed in Yi Qinghan's eyes. However, he hid it well and Yao Fei didn't discover it. He revealed a look of disdain and sneered, "Bullshit heavenly spiritual body, bullshit heavenly Tao. This great emperor's strength is enough to look down upon all of Pangaea, just a little bit worse than a divine sovereign. What kind of spiritual body has this great emperor seen before? What kind of cultivation method have I not heard before? Your Fei race monarch must be talking nonsense, right? This great emperor has never heard of such a thing. You're the one talking nonsense." Yao Fei stood up, her eyes filled with anger as she glared at Yi Qinghan. Her face flushed red as she retorted, "What do you know? Tens of millions of years ago, our Fei race was a powerful plane that looked down upon all of Pangaea. Our race once had a heavenly spiritual body that led our great Fei plane to obtain first place in countless planar wars. This supreme heavenly Tao cultivation method is a peerless cultivation method that our ancestor obtained from a divine sovereign. It's normal for your tiny little divine world to not have heard of it. Keep bragging. Cows are flying in the sky." Yi Qinghan shrugged his shoulders, a cold smile on his face. He feigned mockery as he said, "No matter how much you say, this great emperor will still think you're talking nonsense. How about this, you recite that cultivation method once. With this great emperor's realm and knowledge, I will know whether it's true or not as soon as I hear it. Prick up your dog ears and listen carefully. The heavenly Tao takes away the surpluses and makes up for the deficiencies. The Tao of man is different. It takes away the deficiencies and makes up for the surpluses. The heavenly Tao, Yao Fei, was so angry that her face alternated between red and white. She blurted out a few words, but when she saw the light in Yi Qinghan's eyes, she immediately came to her senses. She angrily said, No, that's not right. You're trying to trick this king's cultivation method. You shameless human, you. Yi Qinghan ignored Yao Fei's curses. His eyes shone with a frightening light, and his expression was incomparably solemn. Then, without a care in the world, he closed his eyes and sat down cross-legged. He actually went into seclusion. Chapter 14:16. Yao Fei looked at Yi Qinghan a few times. After confirming that he was in seclusion, she glared angrily at Yi Qinghan, but took the opportunity to sneak up on Yi Qinghan and kill him. Instead, she said angrily, that damned God World Emperor, he actually tried to cheat this king of his supreme secret technique. Luckily, this king is smart and discovered it early. But I was still cheated out of a few supreme techniques. That damned human. Yao Fei muttered angrily, then sat down cross-legged and continued her seclusion. Two of the strangest geniuses in the world sat facing each other and began their path of cultivation. The Tao of heaven is like drawing a bow. The higher one suppresses it, the lower one lifts it, the surplus is damaged, the deficit is made up. The Tao of heaven takes away the surplus and makes up for the deficit. Yi Qinghan had thought about this for more than 20,000 years, but he had figured it out in just a few words from Yao Fei. Of course, it was not because of those few words. Those words were like enlightenment, connecting all the deductions in his heart, and he was completely enlightened. Although Yao Fei had only revealed the first half of the Supreme Tao of Heaven's secret technique, it was enough for Yi Qinghan to understand a lot. The Frost Realm had stopped evolving. The problem was not that Yi Qinghan had not comprehended the laws of time, but that the Frost Realm had expanded to its limit. Of course, it did not mean that it had already evolved to its limit. Instead, it was already full and saturated. Currently, it had already reached its limit of expansion. Water overflows when it's full, and the moon wanes when it's full. Ever since the Frost Realm had evolved, it had been smooth sailing. The Frost Realm was growing, the planes inside were growing, the spatial whirlpools were growing, and the power of frost was increasing. But the laws inside, the Tao of nature, were not complete. This was like a heavenly god whose divine power had already reached the peak of the heavenly god realm, but their comprehension of the laws was still at the first level of the heavenly god realm. If they could not comprehend the laws, they would never be able to break through to the divine general realm. The laws of the cold realm were not complete, and the laws that Yi Qinghan comprehended were too weak. The Tao of nature inside was not complete, so the cold realm could only remain this big forever. It could never grow. Yi Qinghan was also very clear that it was impossible for him to comprehend too many laws. At most, he would be able to comprehend all the laws of wood and fire. However, it was still useless unless he comprehended all 12 types of laws and reached the consummate level. Only then would Cold Realm continue to evolve. However, Yi Qinghan had refined the primal chaos divine crystal. If it weren't for the fact that Yi Qinghan had manifested the laws of nature during the Frost Realm's evolution and helped Yi Qinghan gain enlightenment, Yi Qinghan would not have been able to do so. How could Yi Qinghan comprehend the laws, much less so quickly? That was why Yi Qinghan had been troubled for so many years, all the way until he came here and heard Yao Fei's words. Yao Fei's words were indeed a supreme technique. Yi Qinghan had comprehended the Tao of nature from these words. The Tao of heaven and earth, the laws of nature, are they not like drawing a bow and shooting an arrow? If the bowstring is drawn high, lower it a little. If it's low, raise it a little higher. If it's too full, relax it a little. If it's not enough, supplement it a little. The laws of nature reduce the excess and replenish the insufficient. Yao Fei's words had explained the Tao of nature extremely clearly. The place where Yi Qinghan was standing, as well as the secret of the reincarnation mystic realm, were all comprehended by Yi Qinghan at this moment. This dusky space was not the legendary Nine Hells realm. Of course, it could also be called the Netherworld. This was the land of reincarnation. Yi Qinghan was very glad that he had come here. Otherwise, his Frost Realm would not evolve in this lifetime, and his strength would forever stagnate. The land of reincarnation. Everything needed reincarnation. Life needed reincarnation. Souls needed reincarnation. Heaven and earth spiritual chi needed reincarnation. All the elements in the world needed reincarnation. This land of reincarnation was a place where nature regulated everything. When it's full, it retracts. When it's depleted, it fills up. It allows the plate realm to maintain a good evolution trend, constantly perfecting itself. I've also built a similar land of reincarnation in the frost realm. Everything will be solved. Haha. All of a sudden, Yi Qinghan opened his eyes and laughed a few times. Then, his body silently disappeared from the spot, entering the frost realm. You say that this king is crazy? This king thinks that you are the crazy one. Yao Feier was startled awake by Yi Qinghan's loud laughter. She muttered disdainfully, only to discover that Yi Qinghan had suddenly disappeared from the spot. Her beautiful eyes widened, and she used her divine sense to investigate the surroundings. Then, her face turned pale. She looked around, then stood up and flew a few rounds in all directions. After flying for millions of miles, she finally returned to her original spot. However, she still did not find Yi Qinghan. She couldn't help but feel a little anxious. She didn't care where she was, all she wanted to do was cultivate with Yi Qinghan, and when she was stronger than him, she could kill him. Who would have thought that Yi Qinghan would suddenly disappear without a trace? Only then did she discover that she was in a strange space. Everything around her was gray and hazy. There were no cities, no people, no life, only countless skeletons. When she was captured by Yi Qinghan, she was indeed only 20 years old. As a heavenly spiritual body that had not appeared for millions of years, she had been raised like a treasure by the Fae since she was a child. Then, her tribe leader and 3 elders had sacrificed themselves to forcefully raise Yao Feier's strength to the 9th grade supreme level. She had great strength, and she had followed Yi Qinghan for tens of thousands of years, but her mentality was still that of an inexperienced little girl. It was true that she was an extremely stubborn person, but she was still a little girl who was used to staying by Yi Qinghan's side. Suddenly, Yi Qinghan had disappeared, and she found herself in such a strange place. Of course she would be afraid. Hey! Yao Feier stood where she was for a long time before she called out reluctantly with a red face. But other than her voice echoing in the empty space, there was no other sound. Hey, come out. A day later, Yao Feier called out reluctantly again, but there was still no response. God World Emperor, come out. You bastard. How could you leave me here alone? Damn, shameless, despicable, lowly, beast, God Realm Emperor, get the hell out here. I want to duel with you. If you don't come out, I'll kill everyone in your God Realm Emperor, come out, please. Feier is begging you. Woo, it had been half a year. Yao Feier had been shouting and cursing at the air for half a year, but Yi Qinghan still hadn't come out. She was starting to panic. She started to run around, but no matter how fast she ran or flew, she was surrounded by the same terrain. It was flat, gray, and deathly silent. Whoosh! Yao Feier was getting more and more panicked. She flew faster and faster, and the fear in her eyes intensified. She ran madly in the empty reincarnation grounds, looking for a way out. Or rather, to calm her heart that was on the verge of breaking down. Yao Feier fell into a state of endless panic. Countless experts of the God world also fell into a state of endless panic. It had only been a few years since the planar war, but the God realm had sent another bolt of purple lightning the day before. Accompanying the purple lightning was a golden divine mirror. Zhu Yi and a group of peak experts stood on the balcony of Fiery Dragon City, their faces filled with shock and fear. Zhu Yi held the divine mirror in her hands as she gazed into the distance in a daze. She murmured, "Emperor, Pan Xing has gone mad. He actually started another planar war after 10,000 years. Emperor, why aren't you back yet? Tell Yi, what should I do?" Chapter 14-17. Pan Xing, are you crazy? You're hopeless, do you know that? An angry shout was heard from the peak of Mount Pan. The voice was very moving. Although it was angry, it was still like the chirping of an oriole. It was enchanting. Pan Shi looked at Pan Xing with disappointment. She could accept a planar war that happened once every 100,000 years. After all, 100,000 years was enough for many warriors to grow. Now, the planar war had just ended and Pan Xing sent down a divine decree to start a planar war. More importantly, it would happen 10,000 years later. Pan Xing's eyes were cold. He didn't look at Pan Shi. He was still staring at the demon mountain in the distance. He smiled and said, Pan Shi, I am in charge of the planar war. What I do has nothing to do with you. If I want to, I can start a planar war every 1,000 years. It's not against the rules. Plus, only 22 planes participated in the planar war last time. The other 78 planes haven't participated in a planar war for a long time. Pan Xing, you're possessed. You're hopeless, hopeless. Pan Shi saw the determination and stubbornness in Pan Xing's eyes. She shook her head helplessly and sighed deeply. She turned around and walked into her small wooden house, leaving Pan Xing alone on the peak of Mount Pan. The wind started blowing. The cold wind fluttered Pan Xing's black robe and messed up his black hair, but it didn't blind his blade-like eyes. His gaze was extremely determined, and the smile on his face didn't change at all. He said determinedly, possessed by the devil? So what if he became a demon? I won't stop until I find this person. Great Emperor, where are you? Yi is scared. Can you come back? In the fiery dragon city, Zhu Yi stood alone in a pavilion. She looked at the green mountain in the distance. Her face was calm, as if she was thinking. However, she was terrified. There were many things she didn't understand. However, with her great wisdom, she guessed many things. Pan Xing started the planar wars so frequently. The divine world participated 3 times in a row. In addition, Pan Xing changed the rules during the planar wars. Also, Yi Qinghan was acting strangely. Zhu Yi knew very well that Pan Xing was looking for a person, and this person was most likely Yi Qinghan. Of course, Pan Xing wasn't looking for Yi Qinghan because he wanted to kill Yi Qinghan. He didn't hesitate to destroy the experts of countless planes, and even countless planes, just to find Yi Qinghan. Zhu Yi observed that in the previous planar war, almost all the planes that had won had appeared. If everything went as expected, the plane that won the last planar war would definitely participate in the next planar war. The Divinity Realm had Great Emperor Xiao He and so many 9th grade supreme martial artists and 9th grade experts. They were not afraid of being defeated in the plain battlefield at all. But if they continued to fight, who could guarantee that no accidents would happen? During the last planar war, if he hadn't kept his cool, if Xiao He hadn't acted so quickly. Once the Celestial Realm's army entered the bloody desert, who knew what would happen? What if Great Emperor Xiao He died? If all the experts of the Divinity Realm died, or if Pan Xing grew suspicious of the Divinity Realm, Zhu Yi didn't dare to imagine the consequences. In the ancient times, the Divinity Realm had more than 29th grade supreme martial artists, and they had several supreme spiritual treasures. The Fire God clan leader Zhu Rong's strength had even surpassed 9th grade supreme martial artist. At that time, there were more than 100 9th grade experts and countless venerables. They ruled over dozens of big planes. What was the outcome? Pan Xing alone killed almost all the experts. The Divinity Realm was almost destroyed, and its civilization was completely wiped out. Zhu Yi thought that the Divine Emperor Supreme was invincible because he was the manager of Pangaea. No martial artist could resist the terrifying purple thunder that killed an army on the peak of Dao Pan Mountain. That was the power of heaven and earth. How could a human fight against heaven and earth? Thus, Zhu Yi was extremely terrified. She was afraid that the Divinity Realm would repeat the mistakes of the ancient times. Seeing how crazy Pan Xing was, if he really made a move this time, the Divinity Realm would definitely be destroyed, and all lives would be mercilessly killed. If it was the old Zhu Yi, she wouldn't be so afraid. However, without Yi Qinghan by her side, her heart felt empty. It was as if she had no roots, and she was anxious all day long. Great Emperor Xiao He, are you confident that you can find the Great Emperor within 10,000 years with me? Are you confident that you can come out? Zhu Yi pondered for a long time, and finally, she turned to look at Xiao He. Without Yi Qinghan, everyone didn't have a mainstay. They subconsciously regarded Zhu Yi, who was intelligent and resourceful, as the mainstay. Once she spoke, everyone's gazes turned to her. Xiao He's eyes turned, and he said, "It's easy to come out. As long as we find the Yellow Springs River, we can come out by following it. However, I'm not confident that we can find Boss within 10,000 years. Not only is it vast and boundless, but there seems to be a strange restriction that can make people go in circles. The terrain is exactly the same, and we can't tell the direction. It's possible that we'll be going in circles for 10,000 years. It's fine as long as we can come out. You guys stay in the divine world, and I will go with Xiao He to explore the reincarnation plane. I have to meet the Great Emperor to make arrangements for the next planar war. Don't worry, we'll definitely come back within 10,000 years." Zhu Yi immediately made the decision. Hearing that they could go find Yi Qinghan, Xiao He's expression became excited. When everyone heard that they were going to find Yi Qinghan and let him make the decision, they felt slightly more at ease. In their opinion, as long as Yi Qinghan was around, they could get through any difficulties. Zhu Yi borrowed the Beast God Temple from the Beast God. She brought Xiao He and flew into the boundless void, beginning the journey to find Yi Qinghan. "Divine World Great Emperor, come out, come out. Fei won't find you for revenge. As long as you come out and take Fei away from here, woo-woo." In the land of reincarnation, Yao Fei's hair was a mess, and her clothes were in disarray. Her beautiful face was filled with fear, and her face was as pale as snow. Her clear eyes no longer had the liveliness of the past. Instead, they were incomparably dim, and she even seemed to be in a daze. She had been running in the land of reincarnation for more than 3,000 years, but she hadn't found a way out. She hadn't found a single person, not even a single life. There was only white fog and countless corpses. Finally, she was tired. She squatted on the ground and hugged her knees, panting heavily. Tears flowed from the corners of her eyes as she sobbed silently. She was like an orphan that had been forgotten by the world. "I'm sorry." After a long time, a regretful sigh abruptly rang out behind her. Yao Fei's trembling body trembled violently before she froze. The tears in her beautiful eyes narrowed as she opened her eyes and turned around abruptly. In the white fog, a green figure slowly walked over. He looked delicate, and his body was thin. His eyes were filled with regret and guilt. Yao Fei's eyes gradually widened, and she blinked in confusion. After confirming that the person in front of her wasn't an illusion, her lips trembled for a moment, and she spat out a few words. "Divine World Emperor, is that you?" The figure in the distance smiled warmly and said, "I'm sorry, Yao Fei." Before he finished speaking, endless hatred appeared in Yao Fei's eyes again. Her aura suddenly soared, and countless wind blades flew out from the void around her, shooting towards the green figure like lightning. The person in the green robe was, of course, Yi Qinghan. Seeing the terrifying wind blades shooting towards him, Yi Qinghan felt like he was going to be sliced into 1,000 pieces. He hurriedly activated the fire god's heart and teleported away. The guilt on his face disappeared, and he pouted helplessly. *CK, we haven't seen each other for so long. I thought you would hug or kiss me to express your excitement. But the moment we meet, you start fighting again. Chapter 14:18. Yao Fei's eyes narrowed, and her face was filled with killing intent. She snorted angrily, "This empress can't wait to cut you into 1,000 pieces. Divine World Arch, get out here. This empress wants to fight you to the death." In the end, Yi Qinghan disappeared again. Yao Fei scanned the area with her divine sense and realized that he was nowhere to be seen. This gave her another scare. She quickly circled the area but found nothing. She hurriedly shouted, "Come out. What's the point of a man hiding? Come out. At most, I won't kill you. Godly World Emperor, you bastard. Get out here right now. Come out. I won't kill you, and I won't seek revenge from you. However, no matter how much Yao Fei shouted, Yi Qinghan seemed to really disappear again. Just as Yao Fei was about to cry, Yi Qinghan's voice rang out again. You really won't seek revenge from me? Yao Fei's gaze suddenly swept into the distance. When she discovered that Yi Qinghan had appeared, her eyes filled with killing intent. She was about to attack. Yi Qinghan immediately waved his hand and said, if you attack again, I'll really leave. You, Yao Fei stomped her foot in anger and turned around, ignoring Yi Qinghan. Yi Qinghan walked over leisurely with a mocking smile on his face. He looked at Yao Fei a few times before saying, don't resist. I'll bring you into the War Imperial Palace. Yao Fei looked at Yi Qinghan in astonishment. She felt the scene in front of her change, and she appeared in the bedroom of the War Imperial Palace. Yao Fei said in astonishment, how did you enter the spatial divine item? This king tried many times to enter that godforsaken place, but I couldn't. Yi Qinghan smiled and said, hee, this is all thanks to your heavenly Tao. I comprehended the secrets of the land of reincarnation, and the restrictions there are ineffective against me. If I wanted to leave that place, I could easily do so. Anyway. Yao Fei, I owe you a favor for this. Yao Fei would not have been angry if he hadn't mentioned it. The moment he mentioned it, she flew into a rage. You despicable human, how dare you cheat this queen of my supreme secret technique? Favor? What does this prince need your favor for? Why don't you kill him for this king? This way, this king can openly return to my plane. Poor Yi Qinghan choked with anger. His eyes turned, and he said with a puzzled expression, do you Fey women have to be killed just because they're touched? What would you do if a Fey man touched it? Kill him too? Yao Fei harumphed coldly and said, of course not. The men of our plane are very polite. Unless it's a wedding, they won't touch a woman's body. If they accidentally touch her, they must marry that woman. Is that so? Yi Qinghan pondered for a moment, then sighed helplessly and said, this time, my strength has doubled again. With your cultivation speed, you won't be able to catch up to me even if you cultivate for several 100,000 years. Furthermore, my strength can continue to improve, so it's basically impossible for you to kill me. We can't be entangled like this forever, right? Don't you care about your people? What if your plane is defeated in the interdimensional war while you're gone? What if it's taken over by another plane? Yao Fei's eyes dimmed as if he had hit the nail on the head. Her tribe leader and 3 elders had been sacrificed for her, and 3 ninth-grade supremes had died in the war with the divine realm. If she participated in the interdimensional war, it was very likely that she would be defeated and then be taken over by another plane. How about this? How about this? Yi Qinghan frowned and thought for a moment. Then, he said with great difficulty, you can't kill me even if you want to. If you don't kill me, you won't have the face to go back. You can't ignore your people. On the other hand, since I was the one who took your chastity, I can't not take responsibility for you, right? How about I force myself to marry you so that you can explain yourself when you go back? Yao Fei was confused by Yi Qinghan's tongue twister, but it sounded like it made sense. Then, she suddenly came to her senses, and her expression turned cold. She glared at him and shouted, Scram, you still want to marry me? A toad like you wants to eat swan meat? I'd rather marry a demon than a despicable and shameless person like you. Yi Qinghan was speechless. He was a great emperor of the divine realm, and yet he was being called a toad by someone? One had to know that if he made a call in Flame Dragon City, there would probably be countless young ladies flying over like moths. How about this? Yao Fei's eyes suddenly lit up. Didn't you say that you owed me a favor? Why don't you accompany me to the fairy plane? I'll consider this favor returned. Yi Qinghan rolled his eyes and said, you don't know how to go back yourself? I'll send you out of the land of reincarnation and tell you the direction. You can go back yourself. I still need to continue cultivating. Yao Fei said decisively, of course not. If you don't come with me, what if you hide and I can't find you after I break through? Why are you looking for me? To kill you, of course. All right. I'll accompany you to the fairy plane. In the end, Yi Qinghan compromised and brought Yao Fei out of the land of reincarnation. He then teleported out of the land of reincarnation and appeared outside the spatial whirlpool of the reincarnation mystic realm. Yi Qinghan looked at the divine realm in the distance and hesitated. He hadn't come out for tens of thousands of years, and the planar war had also passed for more than 1,000 years. Should he go back and take a look? Let's go. What are you waiting for? You're faster than me, so you can fly with me. Yao Fei said unhappily when she saw Yi Qinghan standing there in a daze. Wait a moment, I'll go ask about the situation in the divine realm. Yi Qinghan used his divine sense and smiled. He then teleported and appeared thousands of miles to the left. Yao Fei immediately used her divine sense and saw Yi Qinghan enter a flying device that looked like a large bird. A flying phoenix was slowly flying in the sky. This was something that had only appeared in the divine realm in the past 10,000 years. Because it was easy to make, Zhu Yi had the disciples of the Wind Moon Monarch create a batch of them after they returned to the divine realm. They were used to patrol the space around the divine realm and the realm of demons. Enemy attack. Ah! Greetings, Emperor. A 7th grade war god was sitting leisurely in the front hall of the Flying Phoenix. He was startled by Yi Qinghan's sudden appearance and instinctively shouted. When he saw who it was, he immediately knelt down with an excited expression. Rise. Yi Qinghan smiled faintly and asked directly, what's the situation in the divine realm? The 7th grade war god immediately replied respectfully, Emperor, everything is fine in the divine realm. We achieved a great victory in the dimensional war. All the sovereigns have returned safely, and the Yi family's army did not suffer too many losses. That's good. Send a message back and tell everyone to be at ease. I have already overcome the bottleneck and will return to Fiery Dragon City soon. This outcome was within Yi Qinghan's expectations. With Xiao He around, there was no suspense in the dimensional war. He left with a few words and teleported away. The 7th grade war god watched respectfully as Yi Qinghan teleported away. He then immediately gave the order to return to the divine realm and pass on the emperor's orders. The news that the divine decree had just been sent after the dimensional war in the divine realm did not spread. Zhu Yi and Xiao He went to the land of reincarnation to look for Yi Qinghan. The rest of the people also blocked the news. Only 1,000 years had passed, and the divine realm had not started preparing for war. This 7th grade war god naturally did not know. Yi Qinghan took it for granted that even if the divine realm was involved in the next dimensional war, it would be at least 100,000 years later. Thus, the misunderstanding was ingeniously created. Hundreds of millions of miles west of the reincarnation plane was the barren land that separated the realm of demons and the divine realm. Yi Qinghan knew that the barren land had a transfer array, so he did not return to the divine realm. Instead, he brought Yao Fei and flew toward the barren land. Chapter 14:19. Teleport, send us to the demonic plane. A few days later, Yi Qinghan arrived at the barren lands. He threw Yao Fei into the War Emperor Palace. He did not want the news of him going to the divine realm with a beauty from another plane to spread. He scanned with his divine senses and easily found a transfer array in a dead plane without any life. The barren lands had very little spiritual energy and was not suitable for low-level life forms. However, it was not a problem for a team of Emperor God martial artists to take turns to station here. Greetings, Great Emperor. The team of martial artists guarding the transfer array was curious as to why the Emperor did not come from the transfer array but from the endless void. However, they did not hesitate and immediately activated the transfer array, watching as Yi Qinghan left. After teleporting to the demonic plane, Yi Qinghan scanned with his divine senses and found that there were more cities and more humans in the demonic plane. However, what puzzled Yi Qinghan was that there were no 9th grade supremes guarding the demonic plane. There was only one lower ninth grade Supremes from the fire god race guarding Frost Night City, and he was still in seclusion. The plain battlefield was over. The beast god who was guarding here returned to the divine realm. Then, the divine decree descended. Zhu Yi and Xiao He went to the land of reincarnation. The beast god was not in the mood to come here. All the ninth grade Supremes were still in Flame Dragon City, waiting for news. Greetings, Emperor. Frost Night City was very lively. There were countless martial artists in the plaza. The guards were all Emperor God level, and the leaders were a few Supremes. Have there been any special circumstances recently? Yi Qinghan nodded indifferently and fixed his gaze on a venerable realm commander. Reporting to the Emperor, everything is fine. The venerable did not expect Yi Qinghan to speak to him and immediately replied with an excited expression. That's good. Teleport to the Dark Night Plane. Yi Qinghan didn't mind. After going to the Dark Night Plane, he didn't stop there. He directly went to the Boundless Void, teleported Yao Fei, out of the War Emperor Palace, and the two of them flew towards the Fei Plane. It didn't take long for Yi Qinghan's words to reach the God world. Then, news of Yi Qinghan appearing in the demonic plane also reached the God world. The beast god and the others were immediately relieved. The beast god had also teleported to the demonic plane to oversee it. Yi Qinghan had said that he would be back soon, so everyone went about their duties and quietly waited for his return. The situation in the fairy plane was terrible. In the planar war, the Fey plane had been defeated. They had been thoroughly defeated. Besides Yao Mu, Yao Concubine, and a small number of powerhouses that had returned, everyone else had perished. The monarch of the Fey race, Yao Fei, had gone to the divine world and never returned. Of the Fey race's 5 ninth-grade supreme masters, only 2 remained. More than half of their ninth-grade martial artists had died. Most importantly, the Fey race learned that a very powerful plane south of their plane, the Bat Blood Clan, had obtained the qualifications to attack their plane. The Bat Blood Clan's plane wasn't as terrifying as the Divine World's plane. Any random person that came could suppress their plane. However, the Bat Blood Clan had 7 or 8 ninth-grade Supreme Masters. They were far from what the current Fey plane could resist. Although more than 1,000 years had passed since the Planar War, and the Bat Blood Clan hadn't attacked yet, the Fey plane was even more depressed and panicked. Countless Fey were in a constant state of anxiety. They feared that one day, a large group of ferocious and terrifying Bat Blood Clan would descend from the sky and suck all the Fey's blood dry. Swoosh. On this day, as expected, someone descended from the sky, scaring the Fey race powerhouses half to death. Then, when all the Fey clansmen saw a peerlessly beautiful figure, all the Fey powerhouses burst into tears and immediately flew into the sky as fast as they could. King. From the countless cities below, groups of Fey flew out. There were at least tens of thousands of them. These were all martial artists of the God Emperor realm. In the distance, there were even more Fey flying towards them. Yao Fei revealed a sweet smile as she looked at the Fey powerhouses flying towards her. This was a smile that came from the depths of her heart. When combined with her beautiful face, it was an extremely beautiful sight. Even Yi Qinghan was stunned. King, you've finally returned. If you hadn't returned, our Fey race would have been finished. Yao Mu's eyes were filled with tears. He was incomparably excited, his entire body shaking. Yao Fei's eyes flashed with surprise. She looked around at everyone and asked, "Is there anyone else? What happened? Let's return to Royal City first." Then, Yao Fei glared at Yi Qinghan. It was only then that the Fey powerhouses discovered Yi Qinghan's existence. They looked at him with vigilance, their eyes filled with hostility. "Come with me. Yao Mu and Yao Concubine will also follow. Everyone else, disperse first," Yao Fei said to Yi Qinghan. Then, she flew towards a large city in the north. Although Yao Mu and Yao Concubine were a bit puzzled, they didn't ask any questions. Yi Qinghan awkwardly rubbed his nose. Since he had promised Yao Fei, he couldn't just leave. Instead, he flew towards the north. What? As Yao Fei listened to Yao Mu's story, her face turned cold and filled with guilt. She glared at Yi Qinghan and angrily said, "It's all your fault." "How is it my fault again? What does this have to do with me?" Yi Qinghan said innocently. But he was actually cursing in his heart. "If you weren't so stubborn as to guard the Fei Plain, how could we have lost the planar wars? It's all your fault." Yao Fei viciously said to Yi Qinghan. "If it weren't for you, how could I have left the Fei Plain? How could I have lost the planar wars? How could the Fei Plain have fallen to such a state?" F***ck. Yi Qinghan rolled his eyes and simply ignored her. Yao Fei's cold eyes turned and she said tyrannically, "No, you have to help our plane survive this crisis. The Bat Blood Tribe's plane is about to attack our plane. You have to help us defend it. Survive this crisis." Yao Mu and Yao Concubine's eyes lit up. They had personally experienced Yi Qinghan's strength. If Yi Qinghan and Yao Fei were here, no matter how many Bat Blood Tribe members came, the two of them could easily kill them. As long as they killed the powerful Bat Blood Tribe members, the Fei Plain would be completely safe. "I don't have time. I still need to cultivate." Yi Qinghan directly refused. He didn't have time to spare. "Cultivate? You can cultivate here too." Although Yao Fei and Yi Qinghan did not know each other well, she knew that he was a person who could be persuaded by reason but not cowed by force. Her expression changed, and she said with some resentment, "As long as you help our plane survive this crisis, our grudges will be written off. I will never seek revenge from you again." Yao Fei panicked when she saw Yi Qinghan's hesitation. The Bat Realm was said to have 7 or 8 ninth-grade supreme martial artists. Who knew if there were existences that surpassed ninth-grade supreme martial artists or how many supreme spiritual treasures they had? Although she was confident in her strength, if she lost, the Fei Plain would be destroyed. She didn't dare to take the risk. After a moment of silence, Yao Fei looked shyly at Yi Qinghan and said telepathically, "At most, I will agree to your request. However, you must protect the Fei Plain in the future." "What request?" Yi Qinghan asked in a daze. Yao Fei became even more shy. She looked shyly at Yi Qinghan, lowered her head, and said telepathically, "You said you will be responsible for me." F***ck. "I'm just joking, don't take it seriously." "Sigh, I'm afraid of you. I will cultivate here. Once the Bat Blood Tribe's attack is over, I will return. We will mind our own business in the future." Yi Qinghan thought of Yao Fei's pestering all these years and thought for a moment. There was nothing to do in the divine realm anyway. Cultivating anywhere was the same. He said to Yao Fei, "Send a message to the divine realm. Tell them that I have been cultivating here for tens of thousands of years. After helping you through this crisis, I will return. Tell them to send someone to the Fei Plain to look for me immediately if anything happens." Yao Fei was relieved. She immediately sent Yao Mu and Yao Concubine to make the arrangements. "Yao Mu, why do I feel that the relationship between the king and the divine realm's emperor is somewhat ambiguous?" "I can see that too. Sigh, let's not worry about that for now. It's good that the king can return. With the divine realm's emperor's help, our plane will not have to fear the Bat Blood Tribe anymore." Yao Mu and Yao Concubine left Yao Fei's palace and started whispering to each other. Yao Concubine nodded after hearing Yao Mu's words. She walked out and said, "I will arrange for my people to send a message to the divine realm." "Don't send a message." Yao Mu quickly pulled Yao Concubine out and sent a telepathic message. Yao Concubine's eyes widened. She sent a telepathic message back, "Why?" Yao Mu's eyes revealed a cunning look. He sent a telepathic message back, "If the divine realm knows that their emperor will be staying here for tens of thousands of years, what if they send someone to call him back? The divine realm's emperor asked us to send a message. This means that the divine realm does not know that he is here. After the Bat Blood Tribe attacks, we will send someone to send a message." Yao Concubine's eyes lit up. She exchanged a glance with Yao Mu, and the two laughed sinisterly. Chapter 14:20. Yi Qinghan didn't know that Yao Mu had made the decision on his own. He also didn't know that all the experts in the God world were waiting for his return, and that Zhu Yi and Xiao He were still searching for him in the land of reincarnation. Yi Qinghan ignored Yao Fei, and entered the War Imperial Hall to cultivate. After Yao Fei, finished arranging things, she also wanted to enter the War Imperial Hall to cultivate with him. She said that she wanted to keep an eye on Yi Qinghan and was afraid that he would sneak away. Yi Qinghan threw her into the palace helplessly and entered the stone-steel hall to cultivate. Yi Qinghan had stayed in the land of reincarnation for a long time, and with Yao Fei, Supreme Tao's secret art, he had comprehended the Tao of nature. He built a land of reincarnation inside the Frost Realm, which automatically adjusted the Frost Realm. The Frost Realm started to evolve again, and the speed of its evolution was even faster. The most important thing was that the power of cold had changed color again. It was originally green, but after Yi Qinghan condensed the spatial vortex, it became light green. At this moment, the color of the power of cold had become lighter, but its power had increased. Since the Frost Realm continued to evolve, Yi Qinghan relaxed and started to comprehend the laws. There were also the laws of wood and fire. He could easily comprehend them, so of course he had to do it immediately. I'll comprehend the mysteries of the laws of wood first. After comprehending the ultimate mysteries of wood and fire, my laws will reach the 9th grade supreme level. I wonder if my strength will change again. Metal, wood, water, fire, and earth were the 5 basic elemental laws. They were the most basic elements that formed the world. There were also countless special mysteries of the wind element, such as Yuqingxing's divine sound. They were all derived from these 5 elemental laws. In ancient China, metal, wood, water, fire, and earth were the 5 elements. They reinforced and restrained each other, forming a cycle of reincarnation. Yi Qinghan guessed that after comprehending these 5 elemental laws, there would definitely be a surprise waiting for him. After clearing his mind of distracting thoughts, Yi Qinghan's eyes lit up. He locked onto a high-level mystery of the laws of wood and started to comprehend it. Yao Fei, also continued her seclusion to comprehend her unparalleled heavenly Tao's secret art. The Bat Blood tribe's attack was imminent, and she wanted to increase her strength as much as possible. She had told Yao Mu and Yao Concubine to inform them as soon as the Blood Bat clan attacked. It was easy to inform them. As long as they casually threw a punch in her palace, the two of them would immediately be shaken out. However, to Yi Qinghan and Yao Fei, surprise, and to the countless Fei powerhouses' bewilderment, even after 800 years had passed, the Bat dimension still hadn't appeared. Since the Bat Blood clan did not appear, Yao Mu and Yao Concubine naturally did not disturb their cultivation. The two of them were immersed in their cultivation and lost track of time. Yi Qinghan didn't mind. He believed that the God realm was not a big deal. Even if the next planar war broke out, the God realm would have a part in it, but that would be 100,000 years later. What Yao Mu and Yao Concubine didn't know was that the Bat clan didn't have the time to attack the fairy plane. They had won the last planar war, and now the experts of the Blood Bat tribe had received the divine decree that they had to participate in the next planar war. How would they dare to attack and exhaust the experts of their own plane? Of course, something big happened in the God realm. Zhu Yi and Xiao He returned a year before the planar war, looking dispirited. The experts of the God realm also realized that Yi Qinghan had said that he would be back soon, but now, 8,000 years had passed, and he still hadn't returned. After Zhu Yi returned to the God realm, she heard the news that Yi Qinghan had sent back and learned that he had appeared in the demon plane. She couldn't help but glare at the experts in annoyance. If she was here, she would definitely contact Yi Qinghan immediately. However, there were so many experts in the God realm, but no one contacted Yi Qinghan. It wasn't that no one thought of looking for Yi Qinghan, but everyone guessed that Yi Qinghan had gone to the fairy plane. The fairy plane and the God realm were enemies. Yi Qinghan, Xiao He, and Zhu Yi weren't here, so no one dared to give the order. If it caused a war between the fairy plane and the God realm, no one could bear the consequences. Although Zhu Yi was helpless, she knew that it was too late to say anything now. She could only force herself to pull herself together and start making arrangements for the planar war. In fact, everyone knew that even if Yi Qinghan was in the God realm, he wouldn't participate in the war. However, everyone felt that with Yi Qinghan around, they would feel more at ease. Zhu Yi decided to participate in the planar war with the same people as before. She also asked the beast god to immediately send people to look for Yi Qinghan and tell Yi Qinghan everything about the God realm and the planar war. Xiao He and Zhu Yi led a group of experts and 1,000,000 Yi family soldiers to the planar war. They were going to participate in a war with an unknown outcome. The beast god went to the fiend plane to oversee it. He immediately sent a message to Emperor Xiang to bring people to the fairy plane and contact Yi Qinghan. Emperor Xiang was very unwilling. Although the fairy plane had been beaten into submission by the God realm, he rashly entered the fairy plane. But if he rashly entered the fairy plane and was killed by someone, that would be King Hell. But he didn't dare disobey the beast god's order. In addition, he guessed that Yi Qinghan had teleported from the fiend plane to the night plane and then to the endless void. It was very likely that he had gone to the fairy plane. He had an ambiguous relationship with the ruler of the fairy race. Emperor Xiang led a group of subordinates, riding on a flying phoenix, and slowly flew toward the fairy plane. The flying phoenix was extremely slow. It took them more than 30 years to reach the fairy plane. As a result, they were discovered as soon as they flew into the fairy plane. The spies of the fairy race discovered that they were visitors from the God realm. They were not here to cause trouble, but to look for their emperor. They immediately reported it. When Yao Mu and Yao Concubine received the news, Yao Concubine immediately gave Yao Mu a thumbs up. Then the two of them played a trick of crossing the sea by deception. What? The emperor is not in the fairy plane? He has never appeared? Emperor Xiang's face was full of disbelief. He looked at the two 9th-grade supreme martial artists of the fairy race and asked suspiciously, "Are you sure you are not lying to me? What do we get from lying to you? Our king is still in your God world. Do you know how our king is now?" Yao Mu lied with his eyes wide open, his face serious. Emperor Xiang was confused. "Your emperor? This? I'm not sure. Is our emperor really not in your plane?" "I said he's not. Do you have anything else? If not, leave our plane." Yao Concubine's face was full of hostility. The aura of a 9th-grade supreme martial artist made Emperor Xiang feel suffocated. Emperor Xiang went back gloomily. If Yi Qinghan was not in the fairy plane, where would he be? Yao Mu and Yao Concubine returned to the fairy plane with evil smiles. They only cared about getting through the crisis in the fairy plane. Why would they care about the life and death of the God realm? The news that Emperor Xiang sent back made Beast God dizzy. If not for the fact that Yi Qinghan was so powerful, if not for the fact that Yi Qinghan's soul jade slip was safe and sound in sealed God Valley, Beast God would have gone berserk. In the plain battlefield, Xiao He and Ice Queen Zhu Yi had already gone berserk. Just as they entered the plain battlefield, before they entered Demon Mountain, they received Pan Xing's voice transmission. The rules of the planar war had changed once again. The existences that won the last planar war had to obtain 5 million points in this planar war to be considered victorious. Zhu Yi, Xiao He, and Ice Queen, the three of them flew around Demon Mountain crazily. They wanted to get enough points in these 90 years. Demon Mountain went berserk too. Pan Xing changed the rules of the plain war once more. Numerous people cursed. They won the last plain war. Moreover, the 22 planes that participated were furious. But what could they do? Pan Xing was supreme. No one could challenge him. No one dared to go against his orders. The outcome of going against him was death. In the plain war, because of Pan Xing's obsession, numerous planes went berserk. Demon Mountain was filled with a bloody storm. Chapter 14:21. Why are there so few martial artists in Demon Mountain this time? Damn, 5 million points, where are we going to get them? Within a tunnel within Demon Mountain, Xiao He hollered in rage. Zhu Yi and Ice Queen behind him had helpless expressions on their faces. 60 years had passed and they had only gotten 2 million points. This was even after the three of them went on a frenzied killing spree. Numerous armies probably knew that Demon Mountain was really crazy. The planes that won last time would definitely kill each other in Demon Mountain. Since they could win last time, then they were basically all strong planes. Those weaker planes would just be asking to die if they entered, so who would be willing to enter? There is a colored tunnel ahead. God bless me, let's hope that there is an army outside. Xiao He dashed and his eyes lit up. He twisted in the air and made a perfect arc in front of him, entering a tunnel on the left. Zhu Yi and Ice Queen's faces were filled with joy as they flew over like lightning. There were many passageways with different colors in Demon Mountain, but not every passageway had an army stationed outside it. For example, if God World didn't join in the battle, the outside would be empty with no one at all. Demon Mountain's tunnels intersected with one another and it was tough to find one with colors. If one did, it would depend on luck. Our luck is not bad. However, there are too few martial artists in this plane. Xiao He dashed out excitedly. When he saw the sky full of foreign cultivators, joy appeared on his face. He then swept with his divine sense and felt a little helpless. The strange plane outside was a strange beast that had never been seen before. It had countless legs, but they were like tree roots, intertwined and extending into the ground. Its body was like a bamboo pole, and it was dozens of meters tall. It was covered in dried bark, and it had a lot of eyes, dozens of pairs, and countless arms. It looked like an ancient tree or rather a tree demon. Okay. Emperor Xiao He, stop complaining and attack. There are hundreds of thousands of points here. After Zhu Yi and Ice Queen followed out, although they were a little disappointed, it was rare for them to find an army. They were considered lucky. The three of them weren't prepared to let any foreign beings escape. They turned into three shadows and flew in three different directions. Chi. As soon as Xiao He and the others moved, the army of tree demons in the distance also moved. Countless large hands turned into vines that filled the sky and shot toward the three of them. They were not fast, but they had the advantage in numbers. Countless vines covered the sky in an instant, including the three of them. The vines emitted a green stream of air, and a terrifying aura came from within. He cultivates the wood element, the power of wood? Zhu Yi sneered and sent out her 1,000-layer wave. However, the 1,000-layer wave didn't go forward. Instead, it started to spin in the air, forming a huge vortex that sucked in the vine arms. The vine arms were immediately torn apart as soon as they were sucked in. Ice Queen was really relaxed. She waved her hand and rows of ice arrows shot out. The vine arms in front of her were all shattered and not a single vine arm could touch her body. Xiao He, on the other hand, was incomparably terrifying. He did not move at all and simply flew forward. Those vine arms easily wrapped around his body. However, any vine that touched his body would be corroded. No matter how many came, they would all be corroded. It was like they weren't here to attack him but to give him energy. The two of them broke through the vine arms' encirclement. Zhu Yi went left, Ice Queen went right, and Xiao He was in the middle. The three of them flew above the army and formed a triangular formation. After confirming that their aura could cover the army below and that not a single tree demon could escape, they attacked. 2 Grade 9 Supreme Martial Artists and 1 exceeding Grade 9 Supreme Martial Artists' aura was like 3 mountains pressing down on them. The vine arms that shot towards the three of them were instantly pressed down. Numerous tree demons were bent down from the pressure. Chi. Hundreds of thousands of low-grade tree demons couldn't move, but there were still several vines that resisted the pressure and shot towards Xiao He. Xiao He laughed coldly. He wasn't afraid at all. His body turned into a gust of wind and covered the area below. Kill! Zhu Yi hollered and started to attack along with Ice Queen. They needed large amounts of points, so they didn't want to wait for Xiao He to attack alone. The faster they got points, the safer they would be. Zhu Yi, Ice Queen, don't attack. Xiao He hollered right away. Zhu Yi and Ice Queen stopped and looked towards Xiao He curiously. Xiao He's excited voice spread out from within the wind. This tree demon has such strong life energy. One tree demon is comparable to a grade 9 supreme martial artist in terms of life energy. Waka. I wonder if this Emperor Xiao He can evolve again after devouring all of these tree demons. Evolve? Zhu Yi and Ice Queen's eyes lit up at the same time. Yi Qinghan and the two of them deduced that Xiao He could evolve once more. But after swallowing so many experts, so many grade 9 supreme martial artists, they didn't feel any signs of evolution. If this tree demon really had such a huge amount of life energy, there was a chance that it could evolve. What was Xiao He's current strength? He was someone exceeding grade 9 supreme martial artist. When he evolved, how strong would his strength be? Zhu Yi and Ice Queen didn't dare to imagine. But even if they couldn't go up against Pan Xing, they could at least exchange a few blows or make him worry, right? Zhu Yi and Ice Queen retracted their attacks and stood in mid-air aggressively to ensure that none of the tree demons could escape. Of course, the tree demons couldn't escape. Not to mention the two of them covering them, even Xiao He's aura made it hard for them to move. There weren't many experts in the tree demon army. Who knew if they were killed in Demon Mountain 60 years ago? But there was only one grade 9 supreme martial artist. Xiao He didn't bother about the low-grade tree demons. He covered the grade 9 supreme martial artist tree demon and started to fight with it. It was obvious that the tree demon couldn't hurt Xiao He and could only wait to be swallowed. What surprised Zhu Yi and Ice Queen was that the grade 9 supreme martial artist tree demon was too strong, or its life energy was too strong. Xiao He swallowed it really slowly. He had swallowed for half a month and he had only swallowed a small portion. Although Zhu Yi and Ice Queen were anxious for Xiao He to evolve, the two of them could only wait patiently. 1 month, 3 months, 1 year. A year later, Xiao He finally swallowed the grade 9 supreme martial artist tree demon. Zhu Yi and Ice Queen heaved a sigh of relief. They thought that the other low-grade tree demons would be easy to swallow, right? Who knew? What shocked them was that those low-level tree demons were also very difficult to swallow. Little Black originally wanted to cover a group of low-level tree demons in a large area, but he found that it was extremely difficult to swallow. In the end, he was forced to swallow dozens of them. Ice Queen sent a voice transmission to Zhu Yi worriedly. Queen Zhu Yi, if we continue like this, won't it take 10 to 20 years? We only have a little more than 3 million points here. What should we do with 1 million points? When the final battle begins, points will be hard to come by. Unless we go to Blood Desert. Zhu Yi looked at Xiao He and sent a voice transmission to him with a firm gaze. There is no choice. Xiao He's evolution is the most important thing. We will think of a way to get points in the future. If not, we will just kill the army outside of Blood Desert. Chapter 1422. Ice Queen was right. When Xiao He swallowed the last tree monster, 20 years had passed. There were still a few more years and he was still lacking 1 million points. Unless they could find another big plane within these 7 or 8 years and annihilate their entire army. If not, he wouldn't be able to reach 5 million. Find an army within 7 to 8 years? Was that possible? It was possible. That depended on luck. If one was heaven-defying, they might be able to find one in 1 to 2 years. If they were unlucky, they might not even find one in 100 years. Xiao He, how do you feel? Can you evolve? Zhu Yi didn't care about that. She stared at Xiao He with a burning gaze. If Xiao He could evolve, not to mention the plain war, even the God world would have the confidence to fight Pan Xing. What was there to be afraid of? Yes. Xiao He's eyes were terrifyingly bright. He nodded his head and his face was filled with joy. He said with certainty, I can feel that I am about to evolve. The life energy of these tree monsters is too strong. Waha. I feel that as long as it swallows the life force of 10 ninth grade supreme martial artists, it will evolve. Ultimate evolution. Haha. I wonder what level my strength will reach after the evolution. Zhu Yi and Ice Queen's bodies shook. They exchanged glances with one another and laughed. Like two blooming flowers, they were extremely beautiful. Each time Xiao He evolved, he would have a vague feeling. As long as he sensed it, he would definitely be able to evolve. Let's go. Zhu Yi waved her hands and dashed into Demon Mountain. Ice Queen and Xiao He followed right away. 10 supreme level experts. It didn't mean that they had to swallow them. Swallowing an army, 1,000,000 martial artists, several grade 9 martial artists and 1 or 2 grade 9 supreme martial artists was barely enough. So their goal was to find an army. That way, not only could Xiao He evolve, but he might be able to accumulate points too. However, this time the Supreme God Emperor didn't protect them. Until the battle started, the three of them only met a few small groups. They didn't even meet a single grade 9 martial artist. When the white light covered the three of them, Zhu Yi's eyes were filled with determination. He had to make Xiao He evolve at all costs. In the battlefield of the decisive battle, the millions of Yi family soldiers stood silently at the stronghold in the immortal realm. Kid and the others were originally listless, but when they saw Xiao He and Zhu Yi's backs, they immediately became excited. After being stuck outside the Devil Mountain for 90 years, he could finally move his hands and feet. Attack. Search for the Planar Legion and start a war. Scout team, scout the area and search for the Planar Legion. Zhu Yi's first sentence jolted everyone's spirits and made everyone slightly nervous. Were they finally going to fight? It seemed that Great Emperor Xiao He and the two queens did not have enough points. How many points did they need? Countless scout squads began to spread out, searching for the Otherworld Legion. This time, Pan Xing didn't give any strange orders, like all the planes had to go to a decisive battle or something. This made Zhu Yi and the others feel slightly relieved. In fact, Pan Xing wasn't interested in the other 78 planes. Anyway, these 22 planes legions didn't have 5 million points. They had to fight everywhere for the final battle. Of the 22 planes, only a few of the more powerful planes still retained a lot of power. He didn't believe that when the planes legions were about to be annihilated, that hidden powerhouse wouldn't make a move. In the battlefield of the decisive battle, countless planes legions began to move. Because these 22 planes legions were fighting crazily in the Devil Mountain, countless planes legions didn't dare to enter the Devil Mountain, and the points they had were far from enough. Now that the decisive battle had begun, unless they surrendered and were willing to be defeated, they could only wander around and search for weaker planes legions to kill and gain points. Reporting to Great Emperor Xiao He, Commander-in-Chief, Lords, there's news coming from 1,000,000 miles to the right. There are two planes legions fighting. One side is the Minotaur Legion, the other side is the alien monsters. Both sides have 9th grade supreme martial artists, millions of people, and their specific strength is unknown. The Immortal Realm legions were marching silently. The captain of the scout team flew over from afar, knelt on one knee in front of Xiao He and Zhu Yi, and reported the latest battle report. Zhu Yi immediately ordered, "Stop the march and send a message for all scouts to head to that location. Investigate the situation at all costs." Jida and the others were slightly shocked. These scout teams were at least 6th grade war gods, or they were especially fast. In order to train these scout teams, Lei Zhen had expended a lot of energy and effort. With Zhu Yi's order, it was likely that not even half of the thousands of scouts would return alive. Zhu Yi's expression didn't change at all. Xiao He was careless and didn't understand at all. The captain of the scout team bowed deeply and immediately turned into a shadow, disappearing into the dense white fog in front of them. All troops, get into a defensive formation and prepare for battle. Fei Hu, Mei Er, Great Emperor Xiao He, the four of us will stand at the four corners of the Plains Legion and use our divine senses to the limit to prevent the Plains Legion from launching a sneak attack. Zhu Yi ordered again. Xiao He twitched his mouth. Although he thought that Zhu Yi was making a big fuss out of nothing, he still followed her orders. The four of them spread out to the four corners of the Plains Legion and started to investigate. 2 hours passed, and the scout team still hadn't sent back any news. They were probably using their lives to exchange for valuable information. Zhu Yi didn't give the order, so no one moved. However, Xiao He and Yi Feihu didn't think much of it. They didn't pay much attention to the investigation with their divine senses. Even the Ice Queen thought that with Xiao He around, even if someone launched a sneak attack, it would be suicide. Enemy attack. Everyone, rise. Unexpectedly, after an hour, Zhu Yi's expression suddenly changed. Her eyes suddenly shot toward the ground where the Yi family legion was. Everyone was shocked by Zhu Yi's shout, but they all stood there blankly. There was nothing strange in the surroundings. Where did the enemy come from? In the next second, the answer was revealed. Chi. Beneath the ground, numerous yellow shadows flew out. They opened their vicious mouths and started to attack the Million Yi family legion. Their dark green eyes caused Xiao Hei's hair to stand on their ends. Ah! What monster is that? Kill! Numerous Yi family legion soldiers were caught off guard and half of their bodies were ripped apart by the terrifying monster. Numerous god crystals floated out. Tens of thousands of people actually died in one move. The remaining Yi family legion soldiers all attacked in terror. It was a total mess. Those are subterranean beasts. All of you spread out and rise into the sky. Don't tangle with them. Queen, slow down. Emperor Xiao He, attack. What Zhu Yi was worried about had happened. The monster that hadn't appeared in the few planar wars had finally appeared. When everyone heard the words, subterranean beast, their bodies shook. They didn't bother about attacking and hurriedly spread out into the sky. However, there were still some warriors who were entangled by the subterranean beasts and were unable to break free. The Ice Queen immediately summoned the wind and clouds, causing snow to fall from the sky. Xiao He also attacked furiously. Subterranean beasts were the scariest of low-level warriors in the planar wars. Subterranean beasts were not only famous in the immortal realm, but also in the entire overland realm. Subterranean beasts cultivated the laws of Earth. They could move freely underground. Even a 9th-grade supreme being would not be able to detect them if they didn't search the ground. Their bodies contained the power of Earth. Their defense was the strongest in the entire overland realm. The most terrifying thing was, these subterranean beasts were not focused on a single plane. Once they did, they would not rest until most of the warriors in the army were killed, or half of their own army was killed. Report. Of the 2 armies that were fighting, the Tauran army was defeated and was fleeing in our direction. The alien army was chasing after them. They will arrive in a moment. When it rains, it pours. At this moment, the scout team's report finally arrived. The results made Zhu Yi and all the other powerhouses' expressions change. Chapter 1423. Let's see how you can hide it now. I don't believe it. When all the powerhouses and martial artists in your dimension are dead, can you still hide your strength? Fight. Kill to your heart's content. At the peak of Mount Pan, Pan Xing's gaze swept across the area below. His face was filled with a cruel smile that was unbridled. If someone stood at the peak of Mount Pan right now, if there was no white fog in the battlefield of the decisive battle below, and if they could see the situation below clearly from above, they would realize something amazing. Almost at the same time, the 22 planes that were suspected by Pan Xing were currently being besieged by 2, or more than 2 legions. For example, the immortal realm was currently in a chaotic battle with 3 armies. This, of course, was not a coincidence. This was deliberately arranged by Pan Xing. Pan Xing controlled the restrictions in the dimension battlefield, and could easily guide 2 dimensions to meet. Of course, he could also easily cause a few dimensions to meet, and then a chaotic battle would break out. Pan Xing had become smart. He could not force everyone to go to the bloody Gobi Desert to participate in the decisive battle. Now that he had secretly done something, he could cause these 22 armies to fall into a chaotic battle. Even Pan Xing himself felt that he was extremely smart. Zhu Yi was 100 times smarter than Pan Xing, but at this moment, she wished that her brain could work 100 times faster. She did not make a move. She stood calmly in midair, giving orders quickly. All members of the Yi family army are not to tangle with the subterranean beasts. Retreat 100 miles to the left. Remember not to land. Just repel the subterranean beasts' attacks. Don't tangle with them. Freeze the subterranean beasts with all your might. Don't let them delay the army. Otherwise, when the xenomorphs and the minotaurs arrive, we'll fall into a chaotic battle. Yi Feihu, bring all the rank 9 powerhouses to stop the minotaurs. See if you can make them change their direction. If you can't, delay them. There were still tens of thousands of martial artists underground, fighting with the subterranean beasts, or rather, trying their best to get rid of the subterranean beasts. Xiao He was worried about the Yi family army below, so he did not dare to release his aura. Otherwise, those tens of thousands of people would all be attacked and killed by the subterranean beasts underground. He could only angrily turn into a gust of wind that swept down and devoured a portion of the subterranean beasts. These subterranean beasts resembled crocodiles. However, they had 6 claws and were covered in earthy yellow scales. A faint yellow glow circulated on their surface. Even if a 7th-grade war god were to attack them with all his might, they would not be harmed in the slightest unless a venerable utilized his origin energy. The most important thing was that their speed was extremely fast, and they weren't afraid of death at all. They drilled into the ground in silence, and even divine senses couldn't detect them. It suddenly jumped out and used its claws and sharp teeth to bite. Both its claws and teeth were covered in a khaki-colored aura. It was incomparably powerful. Most of the Yi family army retreated, but the speed at which they did so was very slow. That was because countless subterranean beasts were constantly emerging from the ground and flying into the air to attack the Yi family army. After each attack, regardless of whether they succeeded or not, they would immediately burrow into the ground and disappear without a trace. Your Majesty, we can't hold on any longer. The minotaurs have gone mad. Yi Feihu brought the water god tribe and Jida with him. Not long after they left, the Yi family army had only retreated for a few dozen miles before they all returned dejectedly. 7 of them had left, but only 6 had returned. The weakest among them, the leader of the Qingshan tribe, Green Cod, had died in battle. Just as Yi Feihu finished speaking, countless minotaurs with 2-legged lower bodies and upper bodies that were no different from a bull rushed over in a grandiose manner. All of their eyes were blood red, and their bodies were filled with killing intent. The 4 minotaurs at the very front were the most imposing. They had 2 horns that were hundreds of meters long on their heads, and the destructive power that surrounded them made one's heart palpitate. The ones behind them were aberrations. Their bodies were incorporeal, and they resembled balls of bubbles. There were countless eyes on them, and they constantly shot out beams of dark light. It was obvious that their attacks were soul attacks. Emperor Xiao He, ignore the people below. Suppress the minotaurs with all your might. Yi family army, heed my orders. Fight for yourselves. Prioritize self-preservation, and don't seek to kill the enemy. Surviving this battle will be considered a victory. All rank 9s, gather around me. Prioritize defense. Emperor Xiao He, devour with all your might. The faster you kill the enemy, the higher our chances of survival. It's all up to you now. A chaotic battle was unavoidable. Zhu Yi could only issue a few orders in the shortest amount of time possible. Countless people would definitely die in this chaotic battle, but Zhu Yi hardened her heart and did not give the order to retreat. This was because the subterranean beasts would not let the divine realm off. Casualties were inevitable. Most importantly, the divine realm needed to win, and Xiao He needed to evolve. If that was the case, then they would fight with all their might. The minotaurs arrived in a grandiose manner. They were obstructed by the divine realm army and the subterranean beasts' army. The minotaurs seemed to have gone crazy from the slaughter, and they began to attack the divine realm army and the subterranean beasts in a frenzy. The aberrations behind them caught up, and it became a chaotic battle. Blood sprayed wildly. Severed limbs flew in the air, divine crystals floated in the air, and badges were scattered all over the ground, mingling with the blood. Angry roars, wails of pain, explosions, and the sound of the wind intertwined together, playing a bone-chilling melody. The Divine Realm army stayed close together, focusing on self-preservation. However, faced with the attacks of the subterranean beasts and minotaurs, as well as the aberrations behind them, they still suffered many casualties. Zhu Yi, the Ice Queen, Yi Feihu, and a group of rank 9 powerhouses worked together, easily sweeping through the enemy. However, the more they did so, the stronger the attacks they suffered. Xiao He was the most relaxed. Zhu Yi's ruthlessness allowed him to ignore the Divine Realm army's losses and focus on killing the enemy. He transformed into a blue dragon and charged into the enemy army furiously. Apart from the 4 rank 9 supreme martial artists that made him slightly wary, the rest of the attacks from the minotaurs were completely ignored. He ignored the aberration's soul attacks even more. Looking at the martial artists from other dimensions that covered the mountains and plains, it was as if Xiao He saw endless energy. As long as he could devour half of these martial artists from other dimensions, it would be enough for him to evolve. The war continued. Countless lives were lost. Toward the end, Zhu Yi and the others' eyes were bloodshot. A group of rank 9 martial artists started attacking the Minotaur's rank 9 supreme martial artists. The Yi family army was the most depressed. The subterranean beasts chased after them. The Minotaurs and aberrations attacked them, but they ignored them completely. They had to face the subterranean beasts' sneak attacks, the crazy Minotaurs, and the aberrations' soul attacks. The Yi family army was dying in droves. 1 million Yi family soldiers had only fought for a few hours, and more than half of them were dead. But what could they do? In this situation, they could only fight to the death. Fight to the death with all their might. It was either you die or I live. In the end, the Yi family army's eyes were bloodshot, and they started fighting crazily. Divine power, spatial power, earth power, destruction power, and soul power rampaged in the air, on the ground, and underground. More and more lives were lost. The smell of blood in the air thickened. The martial artists in the field became crazier and crazier, after an unknown period of time. The aberrations were the first to retreat. Other than the 2 rank 9 supreme martial artists, the rest of the Minotaurs were all dead. The subterranean beasts finally retreated as well. Only countless Divine Realm martial artists with bloodshot eyes were left on the field. Xiao He's frenzied devouring and massacre had allowed the Divine Realm to win the final victory. It was a pity that several rank 9 martial artists had died. Zhu Yi and the other 2 rank 9 supreme martial artists were the strongest, so they were fine. Kid was half dead and had already fainted. The 3 members of the Water God clan were all dead. The Wind Moon Sovereign was dead. Among the 1 million Yi family soldiers, only less than 100,000 survived. Moreover, all of them were injured. Zhu Yi looked at the dead bodies all over the ground, at the tens of thousands of Yi family soldiers, and at the eyes of the Wind Moon Sovereign who had died with his eyes wide open. She wiped the blood from the corner of her eyes and sat on the ground weakly. Her face was filled with guilt and pain as she muttered, "Emperor, Yi has disappointed you." Chapter 1424. The million-strong Yi family army was the most elite group of low-level martial artists in the immortal world. Many of these elites were manor lords of various manors. In order to follow Yi Qinghan, they did not hesitate to give up glory and status. In the end, pretty much all of them died here. These were all people who had a high chance of becoming honorables and grade 9 experts. Now that so many of them had died, Zhu Yi felt a wave of pain in her heart. She felt like she didn't dare to go back and face Yi Qinghan. Ice Queen's face was cold. She forced herself to focus and sent a voice transmission to Zhu Yi. "Zhu Yi, don't be sad. Everyone needs you now." Zhu Yi was stunned and came back to her senses. She was the commander of the army. Anyone could be sad, depressed, and emotional, but she couldn't. Her gaze immediately became cold, and she immediately glanced at black. She transmitted her voice to him. Emperor Black, how is it? Have you swallowed enough energy? Can you evolve? Xiao He pouted and grinned. It is enough, but I don't dare to refine it now, otherwise, I will fall asleep. Let's talk about it when we return to God World. Zhu Yi was pumped up. She finally heard a piece of good news. It was worth it for so many people to die in God World. She sent the news to Ice Queen and she was delighted. All of you, collect the badges. After you do, we will announce our retreat and return to God World. Zhu Yi immediately sent the message. Everyone who could move started to collect the badges from the corpses on the ground. There were many badges. Although the alien and subterranean beasts took some, it was enough for God World to gather 5 million points. Wang. Pan Xing didn't play any tricks this time. After God World announced their retreat, he used the restrictions to teleport the God World army to the peak of Mount Pan. However, Pan Xing's gaze was really unfriendly, especially when he stared at Xiao He. Although Xiao He couldn't see it, he felt a cold intent spread from the depths of his soul. 14 of the 22 planes have already been destroyed in battle. There are still 8 more. These 8 planes are really stubborn. This emperor doesn't believe that you will be able to win the next planar war. Pan Xing sneered as he looked at the legions that were teleported up one after another. 5 million points. Besieged by a few existential planes, yet there were still 8 legions that survived and obtained enough points. The aberration that was born from the Supreme Slaughter God Blade is quite strong. Without this aberration, the divine world would be finished, right? Don't think that I don't know that the 10 ancient clans have secretly joined the battle. Wait till this emperor finds that person, then I'll slowly settle the score with you all. Pan Xing's gaze swept across Xiao He's body and paused on Zhu Yi's body for a while. Then, he swept his gaze across the other 7 planes. After a while, he still didn't find anything. He sneered and said faintly, "Hide, continue to hide. Let's see how you can hide when your plane is defeated." One by one, the planes teleported over. Pan Xing also knew that he wouldn't be able to find that person in this planar war. He had no choice but to let all the victorious planes leave. Pan Xing's gaze swept across Zhu Yi and Xiao He, causing the two of them to feel a chill down their spines. Zhu Yi was extremely nervous. Even the careless Xiao He felt that things weren't right. Only when Pan Xing told all the planes to hand over their badges and the Divine World Army was teleported to the lava canyon did Zhu Yi and Xiao He heave a sigh of relief. Zhu Yi waved her hands and told the Divine World Army to start teleporting. Half of her body leaned weakly on Ice Queen's body as she looked towards Pan Shan. They had survived another calamity, but what about the next time? She felt that Pan Xing wouldn't let this matter rest so easily. Perhaps 10,000 years later, the next planar war would begin again. Zhu Yi was right. The moment Zhu Yi and the others returned to Supreme Island, Xiao He immediately found a side hall and started to refine the energy in his body. He fell into a deep sleep. A bolt of purple lightning exploded in the sky once more. When Zhu Yi teleported up, she noticed that it stated that the next planar war would begin in 10,000 years and that the God world would participate in it. Her body was about to go soft and she fell down powerlessly. If not for Ice Queen flying up and carrying her down, she would have smashed into the ground. Where is the Emperor? Where is the Emperor? Where is the Beast God? Send a message for him to come and see me. When Ice Queen carried Zhu Yi into her palace, Zhu Yi jumped up and exclaimed. Lei Zhen and the others who came to welcome didn't even have time to ask about the situation before their faces tensed up. Lei Zhen explained, the Beast God sent a message back a few decades ago. He sent people to the fairy plane. Little Han, isn't there? He hasn't returned in all these years. Zhu Yi went completely limp this time, her whole body powerless to sit on the throne. The 2 planar wars had put her under too much pressure. Now that the God world had lost a lot of strength, Xiao He was in deep sleep and who knew whether or not he would wake up in 10,000 years. Zhu Yi was completely flustered. She couldn't even stand up straight under the weight of that 10,000 gene weight. Send people to search for him. Head to the fairy plane, golden dragon plane, reincarnation plane. Head to all the mid-tier planes to find the emperor. If the emperor doesn't return, then in 10,000 years, the god world might be wiped out. Zhu Yi hollered. Maybe Yi Qinghan might not have a solution when he returned, but for some reason, she believed that as long as Yi Qinghan was there, the god world wouldn't be wiped out. Even if the enemy was Pan Xing. Lei Zhen and the others were terrified. The god world army sent 1 million people and so little came back. Water god race had 3 grade 9s, Wind Moon Sovereign, Green Mountain race Chief Qing Shui were dead and Jido was still unconscious. Now that the god decree had descended once more, the god world had joined the war once more. Moreover, they heard that the god world gained 5 million points in the last planar war. Even the stupidest person could feel that something was wrong. Zhu Yi panicked and everyone panicked. Immediately, countless orders were passed down. Countless flying phoenixes took off into the endless void. A day later, Soul Emperor Pavilion and Beast God Palace also took off with the experts of the god world to search for Yi Qinghan. Because of the god world's Pyrrhic victory in the planar war, Yi Qinghan had not appeared for tens of thousands of years. Emperor Xiao He was in deep sleep, and the planar war in 10,000 years, everyone was panicking. Although they didn't know what was going on, countless flying phoenixes took off and countless big shots had ugly expressions. They could feel that something big was going to happen. Countless rumors began to spread. The atmosphere of the god world became extremely heavy and suffocating. Are you sure our emperor isn't in your fairy plane? If you dare lie to us, the god world's army will flatten your fairy plane. Beast God looked at Yao Mu and Yao Concubine coldly. Yi Feihu went to the demon plane the day after he returned. He immediately brought Yi Feihu and the two rushed to the fairy plane as fast as possible. In the end, they got the same answer as last time. If he isn't here, then he isn't. If you don't believe me, you can go find him yourself. Your god world's emperor is missing and you're blaming us? Our king went to your god world and his whereabouts are unknown. That's right. Can the god world do whatever they want just because they are strong? Bring your army and attack us. Let's see if our fairy plane is afraid of death. If you dare to attack us, I will go to Mount Pan and ask the god emperor to help me. The blood bat race still didn't attack the fairy plane. Yao Mu and Yao Concubine had already concealed it last time, so they decided to keep it a secret. The two gritted their teeth and said. With Yi Qinghan gone, they didn't have the confidence to resist the blood bat race. So what if Yi Qinghan found out in the future? Didn't their king have an ambiguous relationship with him? Let's go. The god world was in chaos now. Beast God didn't dare to fall out with the fairy plane. Besides, he thought that with him and Yi Feihu appearing, if Yi Qinghan was really in the fairy plane, the two of them wouldn't dare to hide it. Over the years, countless flying phoenixes returned, but there was no news of Yi Qinghan. In fact, Zhu Yi sent hundreds of thousands of people to the land of reincarnation with special jade talismans, but there was still no news of Yi Qinghan. Zhu Yi and the experts fell into panic. The god world was in complete chaos. It was as if doomsday was coming. Chapter 1425. After the Cold Realm established the land of reincarnation, the speed of comprehending the laws actually doubled. She finished comprehending the ultimate mystery of the wood laws so quickly. This Tao of the heavens, the Tao of nature, is helpful to the cultivation of the laws. Yi Qinghan was completely unaware of what was happening in the immortal world. At this moment, he was immersed in boundless joy. In less than 10,000 years, he had already comprehended one of the 6 high-grade profound mysteries of the wood element, and this was under the circumstance that the enchantress wasn't by his side. Yi Qinghan also confirmed one point. The evolution speed of the cold realm was directly proportional to his cultivation speed. How could this Yao Fei have the Tao of the heavens cultivation method? The Tao of the heavens is the great Tao of nature. It is very heaven-defying. If she reaches large success, her strength will be incomparably terrifying. Should I think of a way to trick her? When a martial artist cultivated to the god realm, they had to comprehend the laws of the heavens and earth. In other words, they had to understand the world in Pangea. The more you understood, the more intimate the heavens and earth would be to you, and the more power you could borrow from the heavens and earth. If you could comprehend the mysteries of the 12 laws, the heavens and earth would completely recognize you. You could move the heavens and earth as you pleased, and you would become a supreme god emperor. As for Yao Fei, Er's Tao of the heavens, although it was not comprehending the laws of the heavens and earth, it was a different way of getting closer to the heavens and earth. The closer the heavens and earth were to you, the more power you could borrow. This was the reason why Yao Fei, Er's original strength had been forcefully increased by others, and yet she could still grow infinitely stronger. There were 3,000 great Taos, but they all led to the same destination. The ultimate goal was to use the power of the heavens and earth. To use the might of the heavens and earth to kill the enemy. Yi Qinghan had obtained the first half of the Tao of the heavens, and it had helped him solve a problem that he had not been able to solve for tens of thousands of years. He was also very interested in the complete Tao of the heavens and was also very curious about how the ancestors of the Fae had obtained this Tao of the heavens and earth. As he thought about it, his divine sense subconsciously swept towards Yao Fei, Er's chamber, only to discover that she had just woken up. Her beautiful face was filled with excitement as she clenched her fists tightly. She smiled and said, "This Empress has broken through again. Right now, I have already comprehended 60% of this cultivation technique. When this Empress has comprehended it to the Great Circle, I will definitely be able to kill that detestable deity realm Arch. This Empress will definitely make her tremble under my feet." F***CK. When Yi Qinghan heard this, he became indignant. "I have to leave my hometown to help you guard this place. Why do you still want to kill me?" His body flashed, and he teleported over angrily. He shouted angrily at Yao Fei, "Get up, I'll bring you out." Yao Fei, was startled by Yi Qinghan's sudden appearance. When she saw Yi Qinghan's cold expression and unkind tone, she asked curiously, "What are you going out for?" "This spatial artifact of yours has a powerful spirit-gathering array. This king's cultivation speed is very fast, but how can this king's cultivation speed be that fast outside?" "I'm not going out." Fall. Yi Qinghan's complexion became even more unfriendly. He felt that he was nurturing a tiger that would invite calamity. He coldly snorted and said, "Get out, get out. Yours truly is going back. Go wherever it's cool. Just take it that I've raised an ingrate. From now on, we'll mind our own business. Of course, if you still want to take revenge on me, come at me. If you can kill this young master, then you'll have the ability. But next time, this young master will definitely not show mercy to the fairer sex." "Humph. This king is not going out." Yao Fei, felt the restrictions of the War Monarch Palace envelop her. A wave of energy was acting on her body, and she could not help but panic. Her body flashed with green light as she resisted the teleportation. When she saw the cold expression on Yi Qinghan's face, she felt rather confused and wronged. Her watery eyes looked pitifully at Yi Qinghan as she whispered, "How can you be like this? Falling out with me just like that?" Yi Qinghan said coldly, "Falling out with me just like that? This young master has helped you guard this plane for 10,000 years. We agreed to forget all our past grudges, but you still want to raise your strength to kill me?" It was only now that Yao Fei, realized that Yi Qinghan had overheard what she had said after she came out of seclusion. She snuck a glance at Yi Qinghan and said with some shame, she was just casually saying it. "This king will not seek revenge from you. Fei was wrong. I'll apologize to you, alright?" Yi Qinghan waved his hand, clearly not buying it. 10,000 years have passed. Your plane has been very safe, and the blood bat race has not attacked. I've done what I promised you, so it's time for me to go back." "No." Yao Fei, was completely anxious. She could see the longing in Yi Qinghan's eyes. It seemed that he had steeled his heart to return. She was a very stubborn person, even paranoid. Once she set her mind on something, she would follow it to the end. Otherwise, she would not have pestered Yi Qinghan so much in the past. When she heard that Yi Qinghan was leaving, not only was she afraid that her Fey race would be exterminated, but she also felt an emptiness in her heart. For the first 20 years of her life, she had grown up under the protection of several powerhouses of her race. For the next tens of thousands of years, she had followed Yi Qinghan. She already had an inexplicable affection for him. She immediately said in a panic, "You can't go. If you go, what will happen to me? Our Fey race will be exterminated. You can't go." Yi Qinghan's eyebrows shot up. He mercilessly said, "Damn. I'm not your man. What does your life or death, what does the life or death of the Fey race have to do with me? I've already helped you guard the plane for 10,000 years. I've already done my part." Yao Fei was even more anxious. She immediately grabbed onto Yi Qinghan, afraid that he would run away. Her face was red as she said, "How are you not my man? I promised to marry you. I am the king of the Fey race, and you are my man. Of course you have to take responsibility for the Fey race." Yi Qinghan was speechless, but his tone softened. He took 2 deep breaths and said, "When did I promise to marry you? Do you think I'm such a casual person?" It wasn't that Yi Qinghan was being pretentious. Ever since he took in the Ice Queen, Yi Qinghan's flirtatious personality had cooled down quite a bit. Although this Yao Fei was a top beauty, and the Fei race was extremely sexy, Pan Xing's giant axe was still hanging over his head. He didn't have the heart to be with women. "You're not a casual person?" Yao Fei looked at Yi Qinghan in disdain. She said shyly, "I'm still a virgin. My entire body has been touched by you. My chastity has been destroyed by you. How can you not be casual? You're a man. Don't you dare to admit it?" "Oh," 3 black lines appeared on Yi Qinghan's brow. He said helplessly, "I said it was a misunderstanding. Forget it, let's do this." Yi Qinghan thought for a moment. It had only been 10,000 years since the godly world had been defeated, and Xiao He was there shouldn't be any big problems. Also, he had told Yao Mu and Yao Concubine to send a message back to the godly world. If anything happened, Zhu Yi would definitely send someone to find him. Since that was the case, it wouldn't be a problem to cultivate here for tens of thousands of years. Perhaps when he reached the large success stage of the laws of fire, he would be able to comprehend the 5 basic elemental laws of metal, wood, water, fire, and earth. It would form a cycle. His strength would increase greatly. He could give them a surprise when he returned. After thinking things through, Yi Qinghan stated his conditions. "I can agree to continue guarding here for 30,000 years, but you must give me the complete Heavenly Tao cultivation technique." Heavenly Tao cultivation technique? Yao Fei's eyes flashed with craftiness. She smiled sweetly and said straightforwardly, "Deal." Chapter 14:26. I got the Heavenly Tao Supreme Secret Art. I'll comprehend the fire elemental laws first before I comprehend the Heavenly Tao Supreme Secret Art. Yao Fei passed the Heavenly Tao Supreme Secret Art to Yi Qinghan. Yi Qinghan didn't bother with Yao Fei. He turned and teleported away, preparing to continue his cultivation. Metal, wood, water, fire, and earth. Yi Qinghan knew that some 9th grade Supremes must have comprehended them before. However, he also had a faint feeling that he was different from others. As long as he could comprehend all 5 elemental laws of heaven and earth, his strength would undergo an earth-shattering transformation. Although this feeling was somewhat inexplicable and unreasonable, Yi Qinghan had always believed in his own feelings. Just like how Xiao He felt that he was about to evolve, that everything would evolve in the end. This was also one of the main reasons why Yi Qinghan didn't want to go back. He had already left the godly world, his women, and his people for tens of thousands of years. If he didn't make any breakthroughs, he would be too ashamed to go back. Either he didn't go back, or he had to be strong enough to protect them. "Pan Xing, I really don't want to fight you. You can be your divine emperor, and I will be my godly world emperor. If you insist on killing me, I can only kill you mercilessly in the end. No matter how strong you are. Yi Qinghan carried an incomparably firm confidence as he once again began his closed-door training crazily. No, none of them. Where did the emperor go? In Sealed God Valley, Zhu Yi kept receiving news from all over. She didn't show any emotion on her face, but her heart was burning with anxiety. Thousands of years had passed. The godly world had sent out tens of thousands of flying phoenixes to search for Yi Qinghan. Even in the land of reincarnation, they had sent out tens of thousands of people to search for Yi Qinghan. But they didn't find anything. If not for the fact that Yi Qinghan's soul jade slip was still intact, Zhu Yi would have thought that Yi Qinghan was already dead. Zhu Yi suspected that Yi Qinghan was in the fairy plane. Back in the land of reincarnation, Yi Qinghan had brought Yao Fei, with him. And the last time he appeared was in the night plane. If he didn't go to the fairy plane, where did he go? However, the beast deity brought Yi Feihu there personally, and the other party insisted that Yi Qinghan wasn't there. Most importantly, the Yao concubine had made a threat. If the god realm dared to touch the demoness plane, she would definitely complain to Pan Xing. It was already a troubled time, so Zhu Yi was even more afraid to move. Otherwise, it would be the end of the world. Yi Qinghan's harem group was also anxious. Xiao He was in a deep sleep. It was the ultimate evolution. No one knew how long he would sleep for. Maybe thousands of years, maybe tens of thousands of years. The last time Xiao He evolved, the god realm was almost destroyed. Xiao He didn't wake up. If not for Yi Qinghan comprehending the unyielding Tao and refining the energy in Xiao He's body with the help of the divine lightning, who knew how long it would take for Xiao He to wake up, it was very likely that Xiao He wouldn't wake up before the next dimensional war. Yi Qinghan wasn't around, and the dimensional war was getting more and more perverted. No one knew how Pan Xing would play with him in the next dimensional war. Zhu Yi's heart was in a mess. She, who was as intelligent as a demon, had never thought that there would be a day when she would be so anxious, so terrified, and so helpless. Under such a heavy atmosphere in the god realm, there were actually 2 lower 9th rank cultivators who broke through. The hermit sovereign had been stuck at the bottleneck for hundreds of thousands of years. Under the great pressure, he actually broke through and reached upper 9th rank. Mo Shanghuang broke through almost at the same time as the hermit sovereign. Both of them were immediately given chaos divine crystals by the enchantress. Before Yi Qinghan entered the land of reincarnation, he gave the enchantress 4 chaos divine crystals. If anyone in the god realm broke through, he was to refine them immediately. The hermit sovereign and Mo Shanghuang immediately went into seclusion to refine them. It was estimated that they would break through to 9th rank supreme martial artist in 1,000 years at most. This news gave the god realm a temporary reassurance. Both of them had broken through. Even if Yi Qinghan didn't return and Xiao He didn't wake up before the next dimensional war, the god realm still had 6 9th rank supreme martial artists. It wasn't like they didn't have the power to fight. 6 9th grade supreme martial artists were indeed a very powerful force. In the entire plate realm, there were less than half of the planes that had 6th rank supreme martial artists. But Zhu Yi still felt a chill deep in her heart. Pan Xing. This suffocating name constantly lingered in Zhu Yi's heart like a nightmare. Zhu Yi had a very bad premonition. Perhaps in the next planar war, the divine world would be completely finished. No, I have to go to the bewitching plane. I have to find little Han. Big sister Zhu Yi has suffered too much. In a palace in the Seal Valley of Gods, Yi Qingwu's face was full of anger. She paced back and forth in the main hall. She complained, "Little Han is really too much. It's fine if he's a playboy, but what time is it now? He actually went to the bewitching plane to pick up beauties? See if I don't give him a law scout when he comes back." But the old ancestor of the beast god said that little Han isn't in the bewitching plane. Yi Qingyu's thoughts were simple, and she asked doubtfully. The enchantress said, "Little Han should be in the bewitching plane. But he probably isn't lusting after Yao Fei, He probably encountered a bottleneck in his cultivation. Sigh. Everyone chattered on. Finally, Yu Qingqing, the mistress of the harem, said, Zhu Yi didn't ask us to look for him, so let's not move around. Once we're in a mess, Zhu Yi will have an even bigger headache. Yao Yao and the others, especially, tell them to keep a close eye on them. Don't let them run around. Once Yu Qingqing spoke, everyone didn't dare to speak anymore. Everyone had always trusted Yu Qingqing's words. Li Shu'ei returned to her palace and immediately found the demon devourer. She solemnly instructed, Yao Yao, you and Zishi better stay in the holy city for now. Don't run around. If you dare to go to the bewitching plain to look for your uncle and dare to act recklessly, I'll definitely lock you up for 10,000 years. Understood, mother. We definitely won't run around. Yao Yao nodded obediently. Only then did Li Shu'ei leave, satisfied. When she left, Yao Yao's eyes, which were exactly the same as Xiao Hei's, started to move. She faintly smiled, and said, the bewitching plain? Hee hee, it's not bad to go and play. With uncle there, we won't be in danger. But mother and the others will definitely keep a close eye on us. In the future, we'll find a chance to sneak out. Right. Let's do it this way. Drag Zishi along, hee hee. 1,300 years later, the hidden sovereign and Mo Shanghuang came out of seclusion one after another. Both of them broke through to the 9th grade supreme martial artist level. The people in the God realm who were originally in turmoil also gradually calmed down. As long as Great Emperor Xiao Hei woke up before the planar war, everything would be perfect. Before Great Emperor Xiao Hei evolved, he already had the strength of a 9th grade supreme martial artist. Now that he was undergoing the ultimate evolution, once he woke up, what kind of shocking strength would he have? Zhu Yi and the others didn't know. Moreover, they wouldn't have the chance to find out. Since the start of the planar war, Great Emperor Xiao Hei had always been in a deep sleep. No matter what method was used, he couldn't be awakened. Beast God, the God realm is in your hands. Wait for Great Emperor Xiao Hei to come out of seclusion. Tell him not to be impulsive. Everything will be discussed after the Great Emperor returns. Yao Ji, you must stay in the Nifa's abyss at all times. If we lose and the other planes invade the God realm, you must use the restrictions to resist until the Great Emperor returns, or until Great Emperor Xiao Hei wakes up. Zhu Yi stood in the palace of the Supreme Island and spoke to the Beast God, Yao Ji, and the sovereign stationed in the God realm. Everyone felt a chill in their hearts. Why did it seem like Zhu Yi was saying her last words? Of course, we won't die so easily. As long as there's a chance of survival, we'll definitely fight for it. If they want to take our lives, they'll have to pay 10 times the price. Zhu Yi forced a smile and took a deep look at Yao Ji. She sent a telepathic message, when the Great Emperor returns, tell him that I love him very much. I love him very much, I love him very much. In my next life, I'll still be his woman. Under Yao Ji's emotional gaze, the beast god's bitter smile, and the burning gazes of several 9th grade sovereigns, Zhu Yi resolutely turned around and flew out of the palace. She brought most of the elites of the God realm and rushed to the planar war again. Chapter 1427. Dragon Men Plane, Mammoth Beast Plane, Godly World Plane, Fire Lizard Plane. These 8 planes must obtain 10 million points in the dimensional war. Otherwise, it won't be considered a victory. Something that made Zhu Yi and the rest despair finally happened. Pan Xing had gone crazy. He actually specified that the 8 planes must obtain 10 million points. 10 million points. Did that mean that they had to kill more than 6 planes? Was it possible? With Yi Qinghan and Xiao Hei, it might be possible. However, with both of them absent, it was absolutely impossible. Your Majesty, this, Mo Shanghuang and the Hidden King didn't participate in the last 2 dimensional wars, so they didn't know the situation. They looked at Zhu Yi and saw that Zhu Yi and Ice Queen, Night Flying Tiger Jida's faces were pale. That's right, pale. It wasn't pale, nor was it snow white. It was a desperate pale. Without Xiao He and Yi Qinghan, the godly world would definitely lose. Pan Xing, you are too vicious. You are forcing the 8 planes to die. Zhu Yi sighed and turned to look at Demon Mountain. It was as if she could see through Demon Mountain to the clouds. Pan Xing was laughing coldly, his face full of mockery. After a long while, Zhu Yi suddenly shouted, Yi Feihu, Mo Shanghuang, the hidden sovereign, Mei Er will accompany me to the Demon Mountain. Jida, you will lead the Immortal World Army and return to the Lava Canyon to defend. If we can't obtain 10 million points in Demon Mountain, once we enter the final battle, we will defend for a month. Immediately, surrender. Ice Queen, Yi Feihu, and the rest looked at each other and nodded. Zhu Yi's decision was undoubtedly the best. Within 90 years, the 5 of them would go all out to kill the experts from the other planes. If they still couldn't obtain 10 million points, then they could only surrender. During the last battle, the Godly World Army was almost wiped out. This time, they didn't have Xiao He, and the Yi family army was almost wiped out. This time, the Godly World Army was much weaker. If they participated in the final battle, the Godly World Army might be wiped out. If that was the case, they might as well surrender and return to the Divine World to defend themselves. With the restrictions in the Nepha's abyss, the Divine World might not be conquered. Most importantly, they could wait for Xiao He to wake up and for Yi Qinghan to return. At worst, the Immortal Realm could just win another dimensional war in the future. Kid also knew the seriousness of the matter and immediately led the million-strong Celestial Realm army back to the Lava Canyon. Outside the Demon Mountain, they might be attacked by 9th-grade supreme martial artists from other dimensions. It was much safer to go to the Lava Canyon. After making this decision, Zhu Yi and the others heaved a sigh of relief. Although this was a dangerous plan, if a powerful plane were to be attacked, and Xiao He did not wake up and Yi Qinghan did not return, the immortal world might be conquered by another plane. But at least they had bought some time. At this moment, it wasn't just the Divine World plane that was cursing inwardly. The other 7 planes were also on the verge of going berserk. Pan Xing was clearly targeting the 8 planes, and almost all of them made the same decision as Zhu Yi. Pan Xing, since you want to target us and prevent us from winning, if we can't win, we'll just surrender. Of course, the other planes weren't fools. The commanders of the Dimensional Army who had some brains knew that these 8 planes would definitely go berserk after Pan Xing's order. Who would risk their lives with you? It was better to wait for the final battle before sneaking in. Of course, many planes were fearless and charged into the Demon Mountain in large numbers. Since you want to risk your lives, we'll do the same. After all, we're killing people and getting points. In the end, it all depends on who's capable. There were fewer martial artists in the Demon Mountain, but the battles became more intense. Once they encountered each other, it would be a battle to the death. Pan Xing, change the rules immediately. If you continue like this, the countless planes in the Demon Mountain will panic and fall into chaos. In the end, a chaotic war may break out. The Demon Mountain will welcome an unprecedented catastrophe. This is not an outcome you can bear. On the peak of the Demon Mountain, the small wooden house on the left that had been closed for countless years opened again. Pan Shi walked out with a cold expression, looking at Pan Xing as she spoke slowly. Pan Xing didn't say anything. The corners of his mouth curled into a cruel smile. He didn't even blink, let alone look at Pan Shi. After a long while, he replied, "You don't need to care about my business. I will bear all the consequences." Pan Shi stared at Pan Xing for a long time and finally asked softly, "Are you sure you won't turn back?" "Why should I turn back?" Pan Xing sneered, turned around, and stared at Pan Shi with a pair of dagger-like eyes. The light in his eyes was incomparably firm as he said word by word, "I didn't do anything wrong. Why do you need me to turn back?" "All right then." Pan Shi sighed faintly. Her gaze swept across the dimensional battlefield. Her beautiful face showed a touch of resolution as she said, "In that case, I'll go find Pan Huang and let him judge personally." "Go." Pan Xing turned his head and said coldly, for so many years, Pan Huang has never issued a decree. If he doesn't say anything, it means that I didn't do anything wrong. He might come back. He might even find that person personally and kill him in front of you. Ha 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 ha. She looked at Pan Xing, who was laughing wildly. She shook her head slightly and lifted her foot. Her body disappeared and appeared millions of miles away in the next second. In a few blinks of an eye, she disappeared from the dimensional battlefield. After she left, Pan Xing's laughter stopped abruptly. His eyes sparkled for a while, then turned resolute again. He yelled coldly, Pan Shi and I are Pan Huang's children. Even if I'm wrong, Pan Huang wouldn't kill his children for an ant, would he? There's no turning back. Even if half of the living beings in Pan Realm perish, I must find you and tear you into pieces. The crazy battle in the dimensional battlefield had just begun, but the divine world was already in chaos. The beast god didn't choose to oversee the demon world. Instead, he continued to guard the Supreme Island. Xiao He was still sleeping on the Supreme Island. Most importantly, Yao Ji was leading a team of restriction experts to reinforce the restriction in the Nepha's abyss. He needed to be in charge of managing everything in the divine world. Zhu Yi and the others had been in the dimensional battlefield for 30 years, but the women in Flame Dragon City suddenly rushed to the Supreme Island together. They all looked worried and afraid. Yao Yao and Zishi are missing? The beast god's expression changed after hearing the purpose of their visit. He was extremely furious, but he didn't dare to show it. Looking at Li Shuai, and Firework, who were crying, he sighed and said, Did the divine world send people to look for them? Didn't Leijin send people to look for them? These two children. Sigh. Yu Qingqing's expression was still calm, but her face was full of guilt. She said helplessly, Yes, Uncle Lei Zhen has turned the entire divine world upside down. Now, he is sure that the two children have secretly followed Qinghan to the endless void. Yi Feihu's grandson, Yi Feihua, helped them escape. Yi Feihua? This bastard is too daring. I will skin him when I get back. The beast god paced back and forth in the hall angrily. He cursed a few times and turned around to ask, Did you find out where they are going? The beast god knew very well that Lei Zhen only gave him the authority. Since he found out that it was Yi Feihua who helped them, he must have found out where they were going. The Demoness Plane. I reckon they are already in the Demoness Plane's sphere of influence. They said they are going to look for Qinghan. Feihua lied to us at the beginning. When he told us the truth, it was already too late. Yu Qingqing and the others obviously investigated everything. They came to the beast god because they had no other choice. The Demoness Plane had a 9th grade supreme martial artist. The beast god could represent the divine world and was very powerful. Only he could go to the Demoness Plane and rescue the two girls. These two reckless girls. The beast god sighed. He thought for a moment and said, Let Lei Zhen take charge here and coordinate the divine world's affairs. I will bring people to the Demoness Plane immediately. Chapter 1428. Beast God brought a few level 9 powerhouses and teleported to the Demon Plane. Then, he rode the Beast God temple straight to the Fairy Plane. The two girls, the Demon Devourer Yao and Yi Zishi, were doted on by everyone and were not afraid of anything. They thought that with Yi Qinghan and Little Black around, no one in the Fairy Plane would dare to touch them. The Beast God had felt that the two of them were very unfriendly the last time he met Yao Mu and Yao Concubine, so he had to go this time. Although the Beast God believed that no one would dare to move against the Fey powerhouses once Yao Yao and Yao Yao announced their names, the Beast God was still burning with anxiety. Yao Yao was Xiao Hei's darling. If Xiao Hei knew that Yao Yao and Yi Zishi were captured by the Fairy Plane and without Yi Qinghan to suppress them, Xiao Hei would definitely kill everyone in the Fairy Plane. In a tunnel, 5 figures were running as fast as lightning. After passing more than 10 tunnels, they found a teleportation restriction. The 5 of them rushed in and disappeared in the tunnel. Not long after the 5 teleported, more than 10 powerhouses with extremely powerful auras rushed in. Looking at the empty tunnel, they were so angry that they started cursing. Cunning humans, they actually escaped. They're from the divine plane. They killed so many powerhouses in the dragon-human plane, but they didn't kill a single one of them. F***CK. Humph, don't let us meet them during the final battle. Otherwise, we'll kill them all. The 10 of them were all half-dragons. Their bodies were covered in scales. Their heads were dragon heads, but their faces were human faces. Their bodies were human, but they had long tails. Looking at their auras, they were all level 9 supreme martial artists. The 10 of them cursed for a while before turning around to continue searching for targets. In a tunnel of Demon Mountain, Zhu Yi and the others sat on the ground powerlessly. Their clothes were messy, their faces bitter, and their bodies were covered in blood. The blood wasn't from the enemy, but from themselves. Zhu Yi's back was badly mutilated. Ice Queen supported her with heartache, but Zhu Yi sighed and said, "It's useless. It's been more than 80 years, and we only have a little over 4 million points now. There's no need to continue running around. Let's wait for the final battle to begin and announce our defeat." Queen Zhu Yi, Mo Shanghuang, how are your injuries? The hidden ruler looked at the 2 of them with concern. The 5 of them faced dozens of Dragonman Grade 9 Supreme Venerables. If not for them running fast, if not for the Ice Queen's ice element attack slowing them down, all of them would have died. Zhu Yi shook her head and said nothing, but Mo Shanghuang grinned and said in a muffled voice, "I won't die yet." However, Yi Feihu's face was filled with indignation. He looked at Zhu Yi and said, "You really don't want to fight anymore? What can we use to fight?" Zhu Yi shook her head and sighed. "There's still a few more years before we can get more than 5 million points. If we die, not a single one of the Celestial Realm army will be able to return. Let's surrender. Even if we are attacked by other planes, we can use the restrictive spell to delay them until Emperor Xiaohe wakes up and returns." God damn it. Yi Feihu was filled with rage, but he had nowhere to vent it. He could only punch the wall hard, causing the tunnel to shake and mud to fall. The Ice Queen and Mo Shanghuang hidden ruler looked at each other, and a hint of sadness flashed in their eyes. Zhu Yi's words were good, but what if the divine world was attacked by a strong plane like the Dragonman plane? Could the restrictive spell really defend against it? Xiaohe might have already woken up, or he might only wake up tens of thousands of years later. No one could be sure of this. What if Xiaohe didn't wake up? What if Yi Qinghan didn't return? Blood would flow like a river in the divine world, and corpses would be everywhere. No one dared to think about it. They could only stay in the tunnel and prepare to spend the next few years in silence. They would defend for another month, teleport to the peak of the board, and announce their defeat. Xiaohe had indeed woken up. Lei Zhen sat in Zhu Yi's palace and received reports from a few people. A white-shirt teen suddenly walked in from the door. The teen was handsome, and he actually had an ethereal aura around him. He didn't give off any aura at all, and his black eyes didn't look lively anymore. Instead, they were deep as the ocean, like an endless void. What shocked Lei Zhen the most was that Xiaohe smiled at him and sat beside him. The 3 honorables who were reporting didn't notice at all. Pa! When Little Black glanced at the 3 venerables, the 3 of them inexplicably fainted. The teacup in Lei Zhen's hand finally fell to the ground due to the trembling of his hand. It fell to the ground and splashed. "Xiaohe, your strength. What level has it reached?" Lei Zhen's eyes instantly emitted a dazzling light. He stared at Xiaohe, and the muscles on his face were trembling. Xiaohe crossed his legs and grabbed a spirit fruit. He took a big bite, and his ethereal aura immediately became frivolous. He grinned and flipped his hair. "Not too strong. I guess I can barely exchange a few moves with Pan Xing." Hiss, Lei Zhen took a deep breath and swallowed a few times. He then said with a trembling voice, "Exchange a few moves with Pan Xing? Why don't you believe me? Why don't I go and exchange a few moves with Pan Xing in the next dimensional war?" Xiaohe's expression was casual. After he finished speaking, he raised his eyebrows and asked in confusion, "Why aren't Zhu Yi and the others in the divine realm?" There isn't even a ninth grade supreme martial artist. Boss isn't back yet? If Xiao He didn't mention it, Lei Zhen would have forgotten. He immediately said with a nervous expression, Xiao He, you don't know. You slept for 10,000 years, and the dimensional war opened again. Zhu Yi and the others brought people there. The beast god was originally in the divine realm. Yao Yao and Zishi secretly went to the fairy plain to look for little Han. The beast god hurried over and hasn't returned yet. He hasn't sent any news either. I'm so worried. What do you think we should do now? What? Lei Zhen saw that Xiao Hei's strength had reached such a terrifying level and wanted to discuss it with him. In the end, Xiao Hei suddenly slammed the spirit fruit in his hand, smashing the table into pieces. His body unintentionally emitted a terrifying aura that made Lei Zhen feel suffocated. He couldn't move even if he wanted to, let alone speak. The fairy plane. Looks like they're courting death. Xiao Hei snorted angrily, and his body suddenly disappeared. Lei Zhen regained his mobility and was immediately shocked. He scanned with his divine sense and was horrified to find that Xiao Hei had already appeared in the Flame Dragon Holy City's teleportation array. He actually teleported across the Star Sea. Don't activate the teleportation array. Lei Zhen was so scared that his face was as white as snow. He immediately sent a message, but it was too late. The super teleportation array was activated, and Xiao Hei's figure disappeared in the teleportation array. Motherf ****. Lei Zhen angrily smashed the table beside him. He really wanted to slap himself. He forgot about Xiao Hei's unscrupulous nature. The situation was originally complicated. He wanted to discuss it with Xiao Hei, but in the end, Xiao Hei directly went to kill. Yao Ji, you're in charge of the divine realm for now. Lei Zhen sent a message to Yao Ji and immediately teleported away. He only arrived outside the Flame Dragon Holy City after half a day. Outside the city, Yu Qingcheng and the others were already alarmed by Xiao Hei's aura. When they saw Lei Zhen teleporting over with a black face, they immediately surrounded him and wanted to ask about the situation. Teleport. Lei Zhen did not say a word. He flew to a medium teleportation array at the side. The super teleportation array was activated by Xiao Hei, and it needed a month to store energy. He could only go to the intermediate teleportation array. Firework flew to the teleportation array and asked in surprise, Father, what happened? Where did Xiao Hei go? The teleportation array had already lit up. Lei Zhen's figure disappeared in the teleportation array, leaving behind a sentence that shocked all the women. Xiao Hei killed his way to the fairy plane. I have to chase after him immediately. Sigh. Something big is going to happen. If Xiao Hei kills everyone in the fairy plane, the divine realm will be finished. Chapter 1429. You haven't found them? Or are you deliberately hiding it? Let me tell you, Yao Yao is the precious daughter of great Emperor Xiao Hei. If anything happens to them, I can't guarantee that not a single person in your plane will survive. I'm sure you've all heard of great Emperor Xiao Hei's methods. In a secondary plane of the fairy plane, the beast god roared furiously. For decades, Yao Mu and Yao Concubine had sent people to search for them, but there had been no news. How could he not be worried? God World Monarch, I know what you're saying. I have absolutely no intention of delaying. I've already mobilized more people to search the fairy plane and all the material planes. There are so many planes, but I can't find them in a short time. There's nothing I can do. You also know that Yao Mu has personally gone to deal with this matter. Yao Concubine was also anxious. It wasn't that they didn't know about those two noble girls. Last time, it was because of those two girls that the God World Emperor had personally attacked the fairy plane. That terrifying great Emperor Xiao Hei had even killed 2 ninth-grade Supremes and more than 100,000 powerhouses in the Dark Night Plane. They dared to hide news of Yi Qinghan, but they really didn't dare to touch those two girls. If that great Emperor Xiao Hei attacked the fairy plane, it would be a catastrophe for the fairy plane. However, the two girls had clearly entered the Fey plane, and the flying phoenix was still floating outside the material plane. The Fae patrols had clearly seen the two humans enter the material plane, but when they looked for them, they couldn't find them at all. During that period of time, dozens of people had been teleported out of that material plane. They had already investigated and found out that there were indeed two unidentified girls. What made Yao Mu and Yao Concubine extremely strange was that these two girls could actually disguise themselves as the fairy race. Later, after asking the beast god, they learned that the two girls had learned a very mysterious secret technique, the Phantom of the Dark Night transformation. It could change their appearance and the attributes of their bodies. Now, the two of them were even more anxious. Not only were they afraid that these two noble young ladies would be killed by the Fae, but they were also afraid that these two people would sneak into Yao Fei's palace. If they woke up Yi Qinghan would injure them in a fit of rage. Killing them was a small matter, but if they didn't care about the fairy plane, then it would be troublesome. Therefore, Yao Concubine stayed here to calm the beast god down while Yao Mu personally went to deal with this matter. However, it had been a few decades, and they still hadn't found it. Even Yao Concubine was starting to feel afraid. Report. It was at this point that one of the demon folk flew in like lightning, his face a mask of terror. Trembling, he shouted, "Not good. Not good. That madman from the god world is here. He's already killed tens of thousands of people, and he's on his way here. He says something happened to his daughter, and that he's going to wipe out the entire demon folk plane." What? Who is so daring? Yao Concubine was shocked. Her face was filled with killing intent as she looked at the beast god. The beast god was also startled. He grabbed the messenger and asked, "Is it a white-clothed young man? He can turn into a blue dragon and swallow martial artists?" Yes, but he didn't swallow. With just a glance, he killed countless of our people." The messenger immediately nodded, his eyes filled with fear. The beast god's eyes revealed a look of ecstasy, but then he became incomparably nervous. He angrily shouted at Yao Concubine, "Great Emperor Xiao He has left seclusion. This is bad. Yao Concubine, immediately take me to stop him. Send a message to Yao Mu and tell him to immediately find the two young ladies. Otherwise, even I cannot stop Great Emperor Xiao He. All life in your plane will be killed by him. Great Emperor Xiao He." Yao Concubine's body trembled. She immediately sent a message to Yao Mu. She and the beast god were led by a scout squad, flying into the endless void. In the endless void, a white-robed man slowly flew forward. Although his speed was incomparably slow, to the Fae around him, it was already terrifying. If your 9th grade supreme doesn't appear in half an incense stick's time, then this great emperor will directly slaughter his way to your Fae plane. Lei Zhen naturally couldn't catch up to Xiao He. Xiao He hadn't completely gone berserk yet, so he flew to the Fae plane and began a massacre. After killing tens of thousands of patrolling Fae with a few glances, he immediately sent a message back. All the Fae felt a chill run down their spines. This great emperor of the divine realm was too terrifying. Although many of them didn't know who Xiao He was, they had all heard of his vicious reputation. In particular, Xiao He hadn't revealed the slightest bit of his aura, nor had he done anything. With just a few glances, tens of thousands of Fae immediately floated into the air, their divine crystals automatically flying out, and they immediately died. This sort of method caused even their souls to tremble. Whoosh! In less than half an incense stick's time, countless Fae flew over from the distance. The Fae all had wings. After reaching the God Emperor realm, they could form a strange air current around their body, allowing them to dodge the attacks of the space blade's shattering current. Greetings, Demon Concubine Queen. When the Fae saw a beautiful woman at the forefront, they all breathed a sigh of relief and all knelt down to pay their respects. Great Emperor Xiao He. The beast god and demon concubine stood side by side. When they saw Xiao He in the distance, their withered bark-like old faces immediately glowed with a hint of spring. Their bodies turned into afterimages as they flew toward Xiao He. Beast god? Where are Yao Yao and Zishi? Where's boss? When Xiao He saw that it was the beast god, the killing intent in his eyes disappeared, and he immediately asked. The beast god hurriedly explained. Yao Yao and Zi Shi used the ghost transformation to disguise themselves as Fae. Right now, they have sneaked into the Fae plane. Their people have been looking for them for dozens of years, but they still haven't found them. As for little Han, they said he's not in the Fae plane. Looking for them for dozens of years and still haven't found them? Humph. Xiao He snorted coldly and didn't pay any more attention to the beast god. His gaze suddenly shot toward Demon Concubine. 2 golden rays of light flashed, and then Xiao He's body turned into an afterimage. In the next second, he had already appeared in front of Demon Concubine. He easily stretched out a hand and grabbed Demon Concubine's snow-white neck. His eyes were filled with killing intent as he snorted in an extremely tyrannical manner. If even half a hair on my daughter and niece is lost, all of the Fae race will be buried with them. Hiss, sounds of cold air being sucked in resounded in the field. Even the beast god was stunned. Demon Concubine was a 9th grade supreme martial artist, but she had actually been subdued by Xiao He without even realizing it. Capturing alive and killing were 2 completely different definitions. Moreover, it was a head-on capture that Demon Concubine couldn't resist at all. Just what level had Xiao He's strength reached? The beast god didn't even sense a trace of Xiao He's aura. He felt like a strong man casually grabbing a baby, incomparably casual. The beast god was overjoyed, but he also became worried. He immediately flew over and sent a voice transmission. Xiao He, don't be rash. We don't have the qualifications to attack the Fae plane. If Pan Xing decides to convict us, the immortal realm will be in trouble. Pan Xing? Humph. Xiao He looked into the void in the distance and smiled with incomparable arrogance. He said faintly, Beast God, there's no need to say anything more. I only have my own opinion. Even if Pan Xing wants to kill me, it won't be that easy. Let's go. With that, Xiao He didn't look at the beast god and the Fae anymore. His body turned into lightning and directly flew toward the Fae plane. The beast god's body trembled. It won't be easy for Pan Xing to kill him. At this moment, the beast god felt that he had lived for so many years in vain. His mind was in a mess. He didn't dare to think too much and immediately followed Xiao He toward the Fae plane. All the Fae were scared silly, but no one dared to make a move. As they followed Xiao He and the beast god toward the Fae plane, they quickly used the Fae race's special communication method to send a message to the Fae plane. Chapter 1430. What? Yao Concubine was captured. Great Emperor Xiao He from the Divine World is flying towards the Fae plane. Yao Mu was in the Fae plane at this time. When he received the message from his subordinate, his face turned paler than his butt. His body trembled and he nearly fell to the ground. What should I do? What should I do? Yao Mu was completely frightened. Xiao He's ferocious name had long resounded throughout the Fae plane. He was a powerhouse whose strength was comparable to the great emperor of the Divine World, and he was even more unreasonable than the great emperor of the Divine World. He was a complete madman. The last time his daughter was captured, the Fae plane had lost 3 9th-grade supreme beings. Would another 3 die this time? Were there any other powerhouses in the Fae plane? Find the king. Find the great emperor of the Divine World? Yao Mu immediately dismissed this thought in his mind. If the great emperor of the Divine World knew that he had concealed the fact that he was in the Fae plane, he would not kill him. Even if he left in a rage, the Fae plane would be attacked by the Bat Blood race, and their plane would be finished. It didn't matter if he died, but the Fae could not be exterminated. It was just that, if he didn't find them, what if the great Emperor Xiao He of the Divine World could not find his daughter and began a massacre in the Fae plane? Report. Just as Yao Mu was panicking and at a loss, a Fae flew in from outside and said happily, King Yao Mu, you found them. Did you find the 2 young ladies from the Divine World? Found them? Where? It was as if Yao Mu had heard the sound of nature. He said in ecstasy, Quick, take me there. Quick. They wanted to sneak into the king's palace, but they were discovered by the guards. They have been captured. That Fei immediately brought Yao Mu to Yao Fei's palace. Sure enough, they found a group of guards holding 2 female Fei captive. The 2 female Fei had faces full of anger as they glared at the people around them. Untie them, untie them. Who allowed you to beat people? Which bastard did it? Stand up. Yao Mu had the strength of a 9th-grade supreme being. His divine sense was extremely sharp, and he immediately discovered that the 2 were different from the Fei. He saw that their faces and bodies were covered in wounds. Thinking of Xiao Hei's words, he immediately roared in anger. 3 7th-grade war gods of the demon clan immediately stood up and said, King Yao Mu, these 2 were trying to sneak into the king's palace. It was the 3 of us who captured them. Tie them up. Tie them up. How could they treat our guests like this? Yao Mu immediately sent out a slap, and the 3 of them were swept away. The guards immediately chased after the 3 people and tied them up. Yao Mu revealed a flattering smile. He turned to the 2 captured female Fei and softly said, Are you 2 the demon devourer Yao and Miss Yizishi? Yao Mu has already taught them a lesson. I apologize to you. Sure enough, it was Yao Yao and Yizishi. Yao Yao rubbed her body and let out a muffled groan. She glared at Yao Mu and said, At least you're sensible. Go and invite my uncle out. He's the emperor of the god realm. I want to see uncle. I know uncle is inside. Yao Mu's pupils shrank, but his expression didn't change as he said, Great emperor of the divine realm? Why would the emperor of the god world be in the fairy plane? Miss, you must be joking. Don't try to deceive me. Yao Yao's quick-witted eyes turned and she proudly said, We've been lurking in your plane for dozens of years. We've already investigated clearly. Tens of thousands of years ago, uncle and your king came to the fairy plane and finally entered this palace. Yao Mu laughed mischievously and suddenly transmitted his voice. That's fake. Actually, the king and your emperor were impersonated by me. It was only to calm the army's morale. But about this, please don't tell anyone. Following that, Yao Mu didn't wait for the 2 of them to speak. His huge aura pressed down and lifted the 2 of them. He flew out of the plane and straight into the endless void. In the endless void, a white shadow streaked across the vast sky at a frightening speed. Behind him, the beast god madly chased after him. Behind him was a group of fairy clansmen. The fairy clansmen cultivated the laws of the wind and were originally fast, but compared to Xiao Hei's beast god, they were simply not enough. The fairy plane was already in sight, but Xiao Hei's body suddenly stopped. Thousands of kilometers ahead, countless fairy clansmen stood in the void. At the forefront was Yao Mu, who had a flattering smile on his face. Who else could it be but Yao Yao and Yi Zishi beside him? Yao Yao, Zishi, come here. Xiao Hei coldly swept his gaze over the fairy clansmen and finally landed on Yao Yao and Yi Zishi's faces.